ways through the Bend onto Nelson Mandela or Philip Kasana to City Centre will be closed from 5:45 potentially as late as 7:30. Make sure you've got a plan to avoid those highways into Hospital Bend during that closure hour. Traffic will be rough and heavy. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes after 6. Today is Thursday, the 12th of February, 2026. Live and direct from Auckland Park in Johannesburg. This is SAFM. We are on 104.2, 107. While you slept, we scanned and scoured your locality, your province, your country, continent, and the world. Carefully curated those news and current affairs developments that we believe will be of most consequence in your world today, and we've packaged them into this morning brief, which we now proudly present to you. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Fellow South Africans, what is the state of our nation? That really is the main theme for the morning, the main story that we'll be covering. What with President Cyril Ramaphosa to take to the podium a bit later on this evening to deliver the 2026 State of the Nation address. But what for you is the state of our nation? Are you more convinced by the green shoots that we are told we are starting to see in the economy? In the bulletin, N. Musa refers to the IMF expecting the economy of South Africa to have grown at 1.3%. That's anemic, in terms of economic growth, nowhere near what we need to turn the tide as far as unemployment and poverty is concerned. But it's growth nonetheless compared to where we've been, where sadly that's our baseline. Our baseline is below 1% growth for a significant part of the last decade or decade and a half. So what is the state of the nation for you? Is it this story of green shoots where we are starting to see the structural reforms that have been implemented in the so-called pipeline industries, the state-owned enterprises, your Transnets, starting to bear fruit, your Eskom, the fact that we've not had those outages known as load shedding for such a significant period of time, that entity is starting to turn around. The reforms we are told are starting to show and bear fruit. The cost of borrowing, which has been a significant cost in as far as our fiscus is concerned, we are told that the curve is starting to turn in the right direction. Nowhere near out of the woods yet, but certainly the story is that things are starting to change. Or is the story for you the water situation that we face in many parts of the country, what has become a clear crisis, plans and responses to that? Are you seeing anything that gives you hope that we may be beginning to turn the tide around as far as the water situation is concerned? Or is it the issue of unemployment that despite these promises that things are starting to turn around, we are off the FATF grey list? We received our first credit rating upgrade in about a decade or thereabouts, in fact over a decade, that we received an upgrade in as far as the credit rating is concerned. Do any of these measures mean anything to you? Is it a positive story that says perhaps we have it in us, that if we stay the course and if we work hard enough, perhaps in about 4 or 5 years' time, we'll be talking a very different story, 4% growth, who knows? Or is it a story that says, for as long as unemployment remains what it is, the hopelessness that you see among the youth who risk becoming a lost generation, a generation that didn't live up to its potential simply because the economy didn't produce enough economic opportunities? I'd love to hear from you. We've got a whole host of guests lined up to weigh in on their expectations on the State of the Nation address. For example, in the first half hour of the second hour, we'll have a lineup of political parties outlining what they expect. They include parties in the government of national unity and parties outside of the government. So the official opposition party, the MK party, we'll have Mabato Mokoena, who is the chief whip of the MK party, to weigh in on their expectations. But also at the same time, we'll hear from Jan de Villiers, who is an MP of the Democratic Alliance and also its spokesperson. And then Mdumiseni Ntuli is the ANC chief whip. We'll be talking about the three main priorities, for example, how far the government of national unity has gone towards implementing those priorities they've set for themselves. So that's the first half hour of the second hour of the show. Who polices the police who police the police? It's a bit much. IPID is under the spotlight. These are the police who police the police, right? These are the people you go to when police officers are misbehaving and they've conducted themselves in unlawful ways and have committed crimes. But they are also under the spotlight. I mean, the IPID raising serious concerns about political interference, resource shortages, and reliance on the very police service that it oversees while investigating crimes committed by law enforcement officers. Testifying before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, IPID's Director of Investigations and the current acting national head, Thuso Gefelakai, has outlined the structural and operational challenges that the watchdog, police watchdog faces, particularly in as far as high-profile murder investigations involving members of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. Gefelakai revealed that IPID lacks the critical forensic and technical expertise, and it's forced to rely on the very SAPS that it's meant to exercise oversight over to collect certain forms of evidence. So that's just one of those conundrums where the people that you are investigating have to assist you in the investigation to investigate them. So he's also pointed out that, due to persistent resource and manpower shortages, their work is hampered and they're not, as effective as they should be in as far as exercising oversight is concerned. So at about 10 to 7 this morning, I'll speak to David Bruce, independent researcher in policing, crime and criminal justice, but also an ISS, Institute for Security Studies consultant. So those are some of the milestones of where we are going with this journey over the next 3 hours. Morning brief team, to your stations please for the takeoff, and Musa is good to go with your half-hourly news updates throughout the 3 hours. Zaikan has got your sport covered. Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief coming up in the next few minutes, and it's all systems go once again with Ndauleng Lechela as far as your economics and market updates are concerned. And it's a thumbs up from Sipho Mantula, who has got the Africa update for you at about 20 to 7. It's a whistle-stop tour of the news that has made headlines across the African continent and her diaspora. And of course, he will have the ever-popular historical archive. Your calls, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, 061 410 4107. This is the morning brief. Context, consequence, and conversation starting now.
At Discovery Health Medical Scheme, we're for health. For family health that shouts.
Push, Mom, higher!
And whispers.
Mummy, I threw up.
With unlimited virtual GP consults on our Smart Saver series, we're for growing health. For rewarding health. And for your family's best health. Like no other. Join Discovery Health Medical Scheme and add your child from 895 Rand per month. Discovery Health Medical Scheme is a registered medical scheme.
The Sea Robbers are on a real mission to go back to their days of happy people. But Bahlabane Bantwa say they are only going to Orlando Stadium to collect 3 points. This is the Betway Premiership. Nisekazini forever. Catch Orlando Pirates versus Marumo Gallants this Saturday, 14 February at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Tulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
16 minutes after 6, let's get going. Melissa Puta is in the studio with the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. So it seems there was this question mark about what happens with the Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge in the light of the findings of the Judicial Conduct Tribunal pending at the JSC considering that. We now have the answer.
Yes, good morning, Tulasizwe. So the Office of the Chief Justice confirmed that Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge is on special leave following a misconduct finding related to his interactions with a judge's clerk. His leave was granted under the Judge's Remuneration and Conditions of Employment Act and will remain in place until the Judicial Service Commission concludes its review of the Judicial Conduct Tribunal's report and announces its decision. The clarification follows reports that Mbenenge had resumed his duties. He was accused of sexual harassment by clerk Andisa Mengu over WhatsApp messages she described as unwelcome, while Mbenenge maintained the exchanges were consensual. The tribunal found him guilty of misconduct, but not of gross misconduct, gross incompetence, or gross incapacity. The JSC is set to consider the report on the 5th of March, and the OCJ said it will not comment any further pending the process. So we will have to wait and see in March what his fate is.
Speaking of issues coming through from the broader justice cluster, a concerning development around the SIU spokesperson, Kaiser Kganyago.
Yes, so Justice Minister Mamuluko Kubai has condemned threats against Special Investigating Unit, the SIU's spokesperson Kaiser Kganyago, saying the public officials must perform their duties without any fear or intimidation. The threats relate to the SIU's investigation into Omar's Moto Den in connection with the Tembisa Hospital tender scandal involving Hangwani Maumela. Although the SIU the Special Tribunal ordered the condition return of 5 luxury vehicles to the dealership, Kganyago clarified that the SIU's mandate remains intact and the vehicle's value is secured while investigations continue. Omar's Moto Den has accused the SIU of damaging its reputation and mishandling evidence, but the Justice Department described the dealership's remarks as unacceptable and stressed that any grievances should be addressed through lawful constitutional channels. So that is an interesting development in that case.
Quite a concerning one when you're hearing about threats. It seems more and more we're becoming that kind of a country where people resort to threatening behavior and threatening the lives of officials. And it seems the gazetting of the names, including Gugompo City, wasn't the final word on the matter. There's still some room to quibble over it and challenge it. Yeah.
So the fight continues. So communities in the Eastern Cape have been given 1 month to object to several town and landmark name changes recently gazetted, including East London to Gugompo City and Graaff-Reinet to Robert Sobukwe Town. The changes form part of 21 geographical renamings approved nationally by Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie in January. The DA has criticized the move, accusing McKenzie of misleading communities and vowing to help the residents lodge formal objections within the legal timeframe. By Monday, a DA-led petition had attracted 15,000 signatures. Supporters of the changes argue they are part of restoring dignity and addressing historical injustices linked to colonial-era names. Objections must be submitted in writing to the minister within a month of publication, after which a final decision will be communicated. You know where I stand with this. They just lucky that I'm in Pretoria.
Otherwise, you would have attended.
Look, I would be the one taking the petition from door to door at this rate.
Over which one? Gugompo?
Yes, I mean, why? East London is fine, okay? It's okay. Everything is fine.
Melissa. All right, thank you for that. Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief. And by the way, there is a history of a name changing officially and then having to go back following further objections and court processes. And I think I've alluded to it before. It is Louis Trichardt, which had been changed to Mercado. And the fight ensued. A fierce fight that actually played itself out even in the courts, with the result that it reverted back to Louis Trichardt And we've never really gone back. It seems those who wanted the name change then lost the appetite for it and just let it go. And we've since moved on. It's been over a decade or something like that since that drama played itself out.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
On the weather front, there are 2 weather warnings. The first one is a yellow level 4 warning, and it is in place for over the central and western parts of KwaZulu-Natal. That yellow level 4 warning is for severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours, strong damaging winds, large amounts of small hail, and excessive lightning, leading to damage to infrastructure and informal settlements, property, vehicles, livelihood, and livestock, as well as localized flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas, and bridges. Then we have a yellow level 2 warning, and that yellow level 2 warning is in place over the eastern parts of the Northern Cape, western parts of the Northwest, most parts of the Free State, northern parts of the Eastern Cape, as well as the Mpumalanga Highveld. That yellow level 2 warning is for severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours, strong damaging winds, large amounts of small hail, and excessive lightning, leading to localized damage to infrastructure, settlements, informal settlements in particular, property, vehicles, livelihood, and livestock, as well as localized flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas, and bridges. Then there's an advisory. The advisory is for hot and humid weather that will result in extremely uncomfortable conditions over the northeastern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The rest of your weather, Pretoria, Johannesburg, and Vereeniging will be partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. Pretoria will be at a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 31. Johannesburg will be at 19 to 30. Vereeniging 19 to 32. Mbombela will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 32. Polokwane, partly cloudy, 17 to 31. Mahikeng will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated evening showers and thunder showers, 17 to 34. Bloemfontein will be fine, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon with scattered showers and thunder showers, 16 to 30. Kimberley will be fine, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 30. Uppington, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 20 to 34. Cape Town, cloudy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 19 to 24. George will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 18 to 21. Gqeberha will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 19 to 24. Gqompo City, formerly East London, will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 20 to 21. Durban, partly cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 23 to 29. Richards Bay will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from late morning with isolated showers and thunder showers, 23 to 30. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from late morning with scattered showers and thunder showers, 17 to 29.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Bangladesh stands at a pivotal moment this week as voters prepare to head to the polls today in the nation's first competitive election since a sweeping Gen Z-led uprising ousted longtime leader Sheikh Hasina in 2024, thrusting youthful protest movements from street marches into the heart of the country's political trajectory. Emerging from that movement, student leaders and young activists helped topple an entrenched political order and now face an election dominated by 2 contesting visions. The traditionalist Bangladesh Nationalist Party, led by recently returned former exile Tariq Rahman, and the resurgent Islamist-leaning Jamaat al-Islami coalition under Shafiqur Rahman, each staking claim to Bangladesh's future. Let's unpack it all with Cynthia Farid, research associate with the Center for Asia Studies in Africa at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Just building from those protests in Bangladesh, the Gen Z-led protests in Bangladesh, what are our expectations as to whether that energy will translate to a total transformation, perhaps, of the political system?
I think for the fact that this originates with the protest, it's a significant moment for Bangladesh, primarily because it's the first national election in 17 years. And so there's a lot of expectation that goes with it. But the stated kind of reform wish list, if you like, that has come from those protests, that is actually being decided by a simultaneous referendum. So voters are actually going to elections and they're going to cast two ballots, one for electing MPs, the other one is a referendum on constitutional amendments. Those are the things that had been decided as a result, sort of post-uprising period. So there's a sense of anticipation. And so that symbolism of these reforms on the table, it's a very powerful kind of symbolism of participation. But the process is also complex, right? So the referendum concerns constitutional reform, not simply a change of leadership. And that's created some confusion about what exactly is being decided. And as you've mentioned, there's two contending parties. One is, of course, the traditional kind of the Nationalist Party. The other one is a resurgent actor, right? So the more religious right has gained some ground. But it's important to note that women's representation in the pre-election reform process has been extremely limited. So there are concerns still about inclusivity. And then there's been discussions about whether the opening benefits more religiously conservative forces. But we have no credible way of measuring this because the evidence isn't clear, because the polling data is unreliable. And so it's difficult to measure public sentiment. So I think the voter turnout will decide what happens.
The other dynamics, and perhaps you can talk to them, the former ruling party, the Awami League, is barred from this election. But at the same time, we're seeing Tariq Rahman being the dominant name that seems to come to the fore. Talk to those two factors, please.
So on the one hand, a major party has been suspended. So that will clearly have some impact on the voters because they do have a substantial following. And historically, it always alternated between these two parties, right? So like the main contest was between these two parties. So that's another reason these elections have become so unpredictable because where do these voters go? On the other hand, Tariq Rahman, who of course has now returned, there's a lot of expectation attached to that party because party symbols, traditionally people recognize party symbols. And so now there's a lot of speculation about where those votes are going to go. Secondly, with the Jamaat-e-Islami, in any post-authoritarian period, when you have one big bloc that disappears, right? In this case, the Awami League has been banned. And so now some of the loudest voices are coming from the religious right. And so again, there's speculation that some voters might swing, but historically, the Jamaat-e-Islami has only secured between 4 to 12% votes. So for them to jump to a substantial height, the evidence isn't there. I think they will gain ground in terms of the historical baseline, but I think that the BNP is still projected to be the clear winner in this case.
All right. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Cynthia Farid, who is Research Associate with the Center for Asian Studies in Africa, and that is at the University of Pretoria. Brings us to 6:30. Let's go straight to Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majordina has reassured Gauteng residents the soft water restrictions does not mean there won't be any water supply. Majordina's sentiments comes amid the announcement that there will be soft water restrictions across the province's 3 metros, being Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane. Private investigator Paul O'Sullivan says the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi told several untruths during his appearance before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into national security concerns. O'Sullivan appeared before the committee over 2 days to respond to allegations of exercising undue influence over police and impersonating an IPID official. And National Assembly Speaker Doko Didiza says they hope the timeline set out for the reconstruction of the Parliament building will be met in order to have next year's State of the Nation address taking place in the National Assembly again. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Joburg's water crisis again spurring some more local protests this morning. It's located on the Ormonde Xavier Street Bridge M1. So a lot of placard waving residents out there this morning. Just watch for some potential disruption. Just ahead of that, the Mike 1 moving up from Ormonde all the way through to Empire Road is fairly heavy. M2 from Joe Slovo coming into the Mike 1 at the Crown. That's fairly slow as well, but that's fairly standard. Hassels coming out of Pretoria on your way to Joburg. Crash on the M1 South just past Samran. So delays there. Crash on the N14 south just after Jean Avenue. So arriving from Pretoria into that part of Centurion, that's very slow as well. Protest action in the heart of Hector Spruit on the N4 out in Pumalanga. You might want to just hold off before you travel there. That section of the N4 currently closed down to traffic. Key Ridge Cliffdale looking okay for motorists driving between Pietermaritzburg and Durban. Always well worth checking what's happening there because you can get caught in the most horrendous queues. And Cape Town looking all right this morning with the exception of the N2. There was an earlier crash at Lisbeth Parkway. It's just being cleared, but it's left a really big backlog on the N2 in from the airport and on the M5 struggling to get into that N2, pushing a queue back towards Parkwood area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. So about 2 days ago, you and I spoke about Afghanistan being something of an enigma, and that was worrying the Proteas team. And that was Canada. Sorry, never mind. Forget everything I said. Tell me about Aiden Makram reflecting on what surviving a scare as far as Afghanistan is concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The memory is not serving us well.
No, sometimes trying to be too smart is a problem. Keep it simple.
Wow. But you know what? Yeah, I have to agree with you. Afghanistan does remain an enigma, okay? It comes an enigma that tested the Proteas to the limit yesterday. My goodness, Tulas, I have no fingernails left. What a match. South Africa coming through. They are on course for the Super 8 stage of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup, edging Afghanistan in that dramatic encounter. It went to 2 super overs in Ahmedabad. The Proteas posted 187 for 6 with half centuries from Quinton de Kock and Ryan Rickleton before Afghanistan matched the total. And to force the extra time, Tristan Stubbs and David Miller then delivered under pressure as South Africa sealed the win in the second super over. My goodness. Now they will welcome New Zealand. That's on Saturday. More T20 World Cup action. A depleted Australia cruised to a 67-run win over Ireland in Colombo. Despite their captain, Mitchell Marsh, being ruled out injured, Australia posted 182 for 6. Before bowling Ireland out for 115 with Nathan Ellis and Adam Zampa doing the damage. Back home, Vian Mulder produced a remarkable all-round performance, the Lions crushing the Tuskers by an innings and 270 runs at Wanderers. Mulder claimed figures of 7 for 6 and then followed it up with a century as the Lions piled on the runs. Domestic football action, the Nedbank Cup last 16 draw has delivered a blockbuster with TS Galaxy set to renew their rivalry with Mamelodi Sundowns. Galaxy, the 2019 champions, they face the 6-time winners who are desperate to reclaim the trophy after recent disappointments. Elsewhere, Stellenbosch FC travel to Golden Arrows, while Orlando Pirates, finalists in the last 3 edition, will host Kazrick Stars. Other ties include a KwaZulu-Natal derby between Richards Bay and Amazulu and Sekhukhune United against University of Pretoria. The matches will be played over the weekend of the 21st of February, with venues still to be confirmed. Now, the Mamelodi Sundowns defender, Grant Kekana, has refused to be drawn into the growing controversy surrounding the suspension of performance analyst Mario Masha ahead of their CAF Champions League showdown against MC Alger. Now, there's been speculation that Masha leaked tactical information to former coach Rulani Mokoena, now in charge of the Algerian side. Speaking after Sundowns were drawn to face TS Galaxy in the Nedbank Cup, Kekana insisted his focus is on the pitch.
No, I think my job is to play football. I think the technical side and management are taking care of that. And yeah, that's all I can comment on that situation.
Premier League now. In England, Manchester City reignited the title race with a commanding 3-0 win over Fulham, cutting Arsenal's lead to just 3 points. And we have Fulham struggling in conditions as City delivered their response. Aston Villa edging Brighton 1-0, and Burnley snapped a 17-match winless run with a 3-2 comeback victory at Crystal Palace. And finally, Formula One, Lewis Hamilton has raised concerns over Ferrari's decision not to appoint a permanent race engineer ahead of the 2026 season, warning that instability could impact performance. And that's your sport. On the morning brief, we'll have more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela for the first update of the morning. Ndauling, umshini wakho awusebenzi, so umshini wakho should have come to the studio. Let's talk US jobs numbers. That curve is pointing in the right direction for January, yeah?
You're absolutely right, Sila. So Washington added 130,000 jobs last month, and the unemployment rate eased to 4.3%, offering fresh signs of labor market resilience. Now, the stronger than expected print gives the Fed room to keep interest rates on hold as it continues to monitor inflation trends. However, the headline number comes with caution flags. Annual revisions show job creation last year was weaker than previously estimated, suggesting the labor market may not be as robust as it appears. In the meantime, most of January's gains were concentrated in healthcare and social services, while sectors such as finance, manufacturing, and parts of government continued to shed jobs. Economists say trade uncertainty and inflation policy make it difficult to read too much into 1 month's data. For now, the report dampens rate cut expectations, with markets scaling back monetary easing bets.
Talk to me about, this is concerning, Heineken planning to cut up to 6,000 jobs.
Yeah, that's right, Silas. Coming through as it released its results for the fourth quarter, the brewer plans to cut between 5,000 and 6,000 jobs globally over the next 2 years, as it moves to streamline operations amid weak consumer demand and tighter margins. Now, the reductions represent nearly 7% of its 87,000-strong workforce and forms part of a broader productivity drive aimed at boosting efficiency and freeing up funds for growth. Now, some cuts will focus on Europe and slower growth markets. It remains unclear whether South Africa will be affected. Heineken, of course, has a significant local footprint strengthened by its acquisition of Distell a few years ago, which cemented its position in the domestic beverages market. The announcement, as I mentioned, comes as the company reported better than expected operating profit growth of 4.4% for 2025. However, it signaled a more cautious outlook moving ahead.
Yeah, and that's precisely why I was saying it's a bit concerning, because this includes, well, the numbers, we don't know whether they include the plant here in, I think it's in Henley on Klip, in the south of Johannesburg. So we have a stake. It's not one of those stories where we can be distant and not be interested. We do have a stake in the production value chain of Heineken. Lastly, recap for us how we closed yesterday and how we are starting the day today.
Overnight, U.S. markets were choppy as investors searched for direction following an upbeat jobs report. While the data is positive for the labor market, a resilient jobs picture gives the Fed more room to keep rates on hold. Some investors scaled back rate cut expectations, which was reflected in market swings yesterday. Back home, the JSE held on to gains. Gold saw a slight pullback after that U.S. jobs report, but the broader commodities market was supported by strong performance in oil and PGMs. That filtering through to the JSE, with the resources 10 complex jumping 2.5%, lifting the all-share 0.72% higher. The rand also firmer this morning at 15.87 to the dollar, 21.62 to the pound, and 18.83 to the euro. Brent approached $69 a barrel this morning, boosted by U.S.-Iran tensions and potential supply concerns. Over in Asia, trade was mostly positive as investors digested fresh economic data.
I think you and I are in agreement that, with your connectivity issues this morning, if you got on the road to right now, by 7:30 you'll be in studio with donuts and coffee.
I don't think I'd be in studio with donuts and coffee.
Well, maybe not the donuts. No, not the donuts and coffee, but you'd be in studio for the next update. Yeah. All right.
Tempting.
All right, Ndauling, we'll talk to you at just after 7:30. Ndauling Lechala there with the first update of the morning.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Someone who never has connectivity problems, Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's talk South Africa being elected to the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. Tell me a bit more about that.
Refreshing morning, Tulas and Jumbo Africa. Indeed, Tulas, when you look at what happened at the AU yesterday, was that South Africa and Lesotho were elected and confirmed as the representative of SADC in the Peace and Security Council until 2028. And this also gives us more energy, Tulas, and pressure at the same time to say how do we deal also with the regional conflicts in SADC and broadly in the continent. We have the Sahel, we have the Horn of Africa, we have West Africa that I've mentioned now, and we have SADC also, and also the islands that we must never forget, and that's where South Africa was given this role as well as Lesotho. Minister Ronald Lamola is already in Addis Ababa ahead of the president. It means that the president, when he leaves Tulas, will have to jet to Addis Ababa this weekend.
And the ongoing saga around the burial of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu continues, this time around before the SCA.
Tulas, they have lodged already an appeal nearly 2 months after the SCA granted them a leave to appeal. And now this happened this week, but also a strange thing happened in Lusaka also, Tulas. The Zambia Economic and Financial Crimes Court ordered the forfeiture of 79 vehicles and 23 properties, and including a filling station, a double-story apartment that was a gift by Lungu to his son, Daliso Lungu. So others are saying now this trial to us is moving now beyond what we will say a body of a former president caught in politics and law. Now it's a legal battle that entangles with corruption probes in terms of the family now. And as you say, Tulas, they've lodged it finally, and we know Edgar Lungu passed away in June 2025.
And in Zimbabwe, when rumblings of a possible extension of the term of Emmerson Mnangagwa started, he dismissed it and he said, no, there's no such, I have no interest in this. But this is gaining traction, is it not?
No, it is, Tulas, and there are two ministers who are behind this, but also it's a parliamentary process. When you look at this bill, they call it Constitutional Amendment number 3 Bill of 2026. I looked at it, Tulas, 4 areas that it's looking at. It says it strengthens constitutional governance. It wants to clarify institutional roles. It wants to promote political stability and finally enhance the state architect. Now here, Tulas, is the issue of the presidential term being pushed from 5 to 7 year term. Also, the election of the president by the parliamentary process, saying that Clause 2 repeals Section 92 of the Constitution. I've also seen that they are giving the president the powers also to appoint more 10 additional senators, increasing it from 80 to 90. What I call the midwife of political power to us, the Electoral Commission of Zimbabwe, ZEC, is being removed with the power of the issue of boundaries. Now they will be setting a new commission, Zimbabwe Electoral Delimitation Commission. That's another commission that they will set. And finally, also, I've seen they are also trying to merge the Gender Commission in Zimbabwe under the Zimbabwean Human Rights Commission. Now, Ziyambi, as the Minister of Justice, is the one who will be sending this bill to the Speaker of Parliament for scrutiny to us before gazetting. And you know there's a window period of that. The first reading in Parliament will take 21 days just to still go to the legal drafters to scrub it and check some loopholes before it can go back to Parliament. So as you said, this is a move that people have been denying. He's pushing Mnangagwa to stay in power until the age of 83.
Sure. Lastly, then, Sipho, your historical archives have to do with two sons of the African soil, one who was released from prison and one who, in fact, both of them released from prison on two separate dates, 12 February 1951 and 12 February 1982.
Actually, you are correct earlier. One was arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Ghana and South Africa. Nkrumah was released on this day 75 years ago after he led a positive action against the British rule. And you'll recall immediately that his new party, the CPP, won elections in 1951. Hence, Nkrumah went into power in 1956 and 57. And when you look back at home, Ntate Thami Mazwai was arrested on this day 44 years ago to us. And remember, he was an activist, he was a journalist, he was part of Sowetan with Bopra Joe Tloele. As a Pan-Africanist, they were very clear to us that they will never sell their own comrades. He was only arrested for refusing to divulge information. And what was that information? In 1969, Ntate Thami received a letter from Biko explaining the reason for not wanting to make a press statement around the South African student organization work. Those are the key historical archives that I think are very important, besides the state of the nation to us, which I saw the president talking about corners. We are turning the corners. Tumamina, others are saying, as but here we have a problem of water to us. I call it water bankruptcy. The AU theme talks about assuring sustainable water availability. I don't know how will the president juggle it today to us, because the issue of water is a basic need. The issue of electricity, the issue of corruption in the policing system, the issue of youth unemployment, and also domestic and international issues. I think that is in short. I won't go deep to us.
Yeah.
He promised he will create 140,000 jobs on cannabis. I don't know how far. Have we done the fact check? How many jobs have we created on the cannabis industry? Asante sana Tulas, that's what's leading the conversation, SFM observing the state of the nation.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula with the Africa Update, and also taking the opportunity to foreground and foreshadow his own thinking around the State of the Nation address, which I've asked you to do as well on the number 086 000 2032 or the WhatsApp line 0614 104 107.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. South side of Joburg, local residents protesting on Ormonde Xavier Street. Mike One Bridge, just watch out for a little bit of traffic disruption in that area. Again, that is over the continuing water crisis affecting many parts of Joburg. Also, Main Reef and Church, those traffic lights right in the heart of Crown are offline. That's already busy coming in from the Amalgam side. Highways, if you're on the M1 running south, there's a stationary vehicle at the ramp to Olifantsfontein Road, so traffic piling back to Old Joburg Road. And before you get there, a crash just past Jean Avenue you on the N14 southbound. Quite a heavy backlog if you're coming into that, having left Pretoria this morning. Vanderboom Junction is heavy. Traffic lights out at Mansfield and Van Rensburg. So whether you're coming out of Pretoria North or splitting down through the Poort off Lavender onto Mansfield, trying to get through to Paul Kruger, that's all really heavily and extremely badly backed up today. Durban, Kumashu Highway at the N2. Traffic lights are still offline there, so that's heavy coming from Mallandela. M13 sitting in a queue between Hillcrest and Maytime, so slow on your way through towards Kloof this morning. And Cape Town, here's a problem just at the top of the airport. Those traffic lights have failed again on 35th Avenue at Bishop Lavis. So behind that, Stellenbosch Arterial, Robert Sobukwe and Borges Quarry are all pretty significantly jammed with delays. M5 looks heavy today from Ottery all the way through to Kuba. Get a change. The R300 currently sitting from Delft up towards the Van Riebeek Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Ezimnyama Ngenkani want to be remembered for stopping the reigning champions. However, Masandawana believe the Buccaneers will experience a long night of sadness.
This is the Betway Premiership. Lisekazini forever.
Catch the big clash between Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns on Wednesday, 18 February at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Then at 7:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call to Lasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take some of your voice notes and calls that have come through. Let me start with the voice note on the State of the Nation address. This is your opportunity ahead of the president taking to the podium and telling you about the state of the nation from his vantage point. It's your opportunity to give it from your vantage point, from your lived experience.
To Lasizwe, a hallmark of President Ramaphosa's presidency and his 2 terms has just been promises with no deliverables. So it's been empty promises, and he will make some more empty promises again this evening, and in the next 2 years when he leaves office, nothing would have been done.
All right, let me take a call from Eunice. Good morning to you, Eunice.
Yeah, hi there, Tulas. Tulas, I want to talk about Ethiopia and there's
Eritrea.
now a secret training camp that has been uncovered there that is being used to train the RSF fighters in Sudan.
Sure.
And this training camp is funded by no one else but the UAE. Now, the role of the UAE in conflict areas, for example, in Sudan, what's happening is a genocide there, and it's not reported as much as other genocides. I don't know why, and the UAE's role is actively the RSF controls a gold mine there in southern Sudan, and that gold goes to the UAE. You can check that out. The UAE has been actively involved in conflict areas, for example, Yemen, in Libya, in funding, and militarily and logistically and financially, the Khalifa Haftar there. So they've been actively involved in genocides around the world, including in Palestine, what's happening in Gaza. The UAE was in cahoots with Israel there. So, this UAE has to be called out. Now, the only reason why the UAE is not being taken to task is simple. They are pro-American. And you see, this is where the whole issue comes into us. As long as you toe the line, nothing happens to you. And it's high time the UAE gets called out, irrespective of whether they're an Arab country or not. I don't give a damn, because there are callers who will come in and will say this. They are a Muslim country, and I will call them out for what they are.
I hear you.
They are a cause of genocide in this world, and they must be called out.
All right,
Thanks,
Eunice. Thank you for flagging that. And it's certainly a theme that I undertake to read up a bit more about the role of the UAE in the various conflicts that you mentioned there. And let's see if we can then bring it back as a proper conversation proper analysis in the coming days, say next week, thereabouts. Let me undertake that work, and then we line up someone that can talk about that role of the UAE in the various conflicts that Eunice has mentioned there. Let me go to Crispin in Durban. Good morning to you, Crispin.
Morning to Lesizwe. I wanted to really comment sharply on these MPs on the ad hoc committee.
Yes.
They've got a witness in front of them. So what do they give attention to, the witness and his evidence, or do they give attention to their hostility, and they display this hostility as if they're doing something useful? But, I mean, that's not what they are there for. And some of the questioning was pathetic. I mean, what is the point of throwing insults at the witness? What is the point of that? What is the point, like Delvin James from Action SA, of making theatrical displays of displeasure at the witness? This is actually, frankly, pathetic. I mean, a low point was MP Numvalo saying you can't call somebody a criminal unless they've been convicted. Come on. Nsantram Kwanazi had made it clear that he will shoot criminals, nothing to do with whether they're convicted or not. The ANC MP who just said, "Oh, you're a brazen liar, oh, you this or what," where are we trying to get to? There should be some focus on what is the evidence. Are we learning? What is it new that we are learning? And there were things that are new that must be investigated, and they just bypassed them because they only focused on being hostile to the witness.
Yeah. No, the hostility is palpable. I mean, it was there even before he appeared before them. And in my conversation with Derelyn James yesterday, the Action SA MP, I did pose that question that says, do you not risk having your hostility get in the way of perhaps gleaning some useful information? And she answered it, and she did say that, there may be something useful that we glean from him, but we can't ignore our discomfort about some of the roles that he has played within the criminal justice system. Yeah, but I mean, Crispin, I don't know. I all along I've been saying to myself, but what did we expect? Politicians will politic. It's what they do. It's not as if we expected them to, carry this out in a methodical, almost forensic manner as the evidence leaders will be doing at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. A big part of what they do is about supporting the narrative that says, for example, if you are on the one side of the argument, Crispin, you'll be saying the ANC government has allowed untrained, wholly inappropriate people, foreign national whose background is dodgy and we don't understand it, to have such a key influence on institutions of security in the country. Hence, we're in this crisis. There's always a political message to be underscored in what they do.
Yeah. Can I just add one point there? I mean, I've influenced IPID. I didn't capture IPID. I've influenced it. I've taken evidence to them, specific evidence. That is the role of active citizens. And missing in all of this is any idea that citizens have a role to play in influencing correctly and democratically the institutions of society.
All right. Now I hear you, Crispin. Thank you for raising those points. Let's see where other people will take that conversation. What did you make of it? The role of the ad hoc committee. In fact, let me play this one. I think there's a voice note here that talks to that.
Morning, Tulas and your team. Tulas, our president must come out and explain to the nation his relationship with apartheid government. Kancane uyavela upresident wethu. No, Tulas. It looked like the guy was a spy. You can hear even Paul O'Sullivan. You just call him Cyril. Just Cyril. Just like that. No. This president.
Yeah.
I call that.
All right, Mgun, I hear you. That question was raised in Parliament, by the way, a couple of years ago, and he answered it. If I'm not mistaken, I stand to be corrected. I think it was raised by Julius Malema, but I may be mistaken. I do remember that question about his history and past during the anti-apartheid struggle, and I do remember that he answered it. I think the best thing perhaps to do would be to find that and replay it, and I'm not making an undertaking that is an exercise we can pull off this morning, but I do recall that question being asked. Let's go to Ann Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Gauteng residents given assurance amid soft water restrictions implementation and provincial government to intervene in Matlosana. Good morning. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina has reassured Gauteng residents the soft water restrictions does not mean there won't be any water supply. Majodina's sentiments comes amid the announcement that there will be soft water restrictions across the province's 3 metros being Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane. She says once they start with the implementation, they will be lowering the water pressure and the restrictions will be temporary.
Intending to stabilize the system. As dear Mashomo have said, it does not mean that if you are getting water, you won't get water because you are soft locked. It's just that we're going to lower the pressure of water, and then we are putting restrictions. Those restrictions are not going to be permanent restrictions, but it will be restrictions up until all our systems are able to respond positively. Because if we don't do that, the system will collapse once more. And if we allow it to collapse, it will be very difficult for it to be resuscitated and be able to give people water on time.
Private investigator Paul O'Sullivan says the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi told several untruths during his appearance before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into national security concerns. O'Sullivan appeared before the committee over 2 days to respond to allegations of exercising undue influence over police and impersonating an IPID official. O'Sullivan is also accused of infiltrating IPID.
When the media asks who's this big five cartel, nobody's been able to say. When they give evidence, who are the big five cartel? No, we can't tell you. Second point is it was alleged by General Mkhwanazi that I had captured IPID. That was a complete lie.
The Eastern Cape Judge President Selbie Mbenenge remains on special leave. He had been accused of sexual harassment. The Office of the Chief Justice in a statement says the leave will remain in effect until the Judicial Service Commission concluded its consideration of the Judicial Conduct Tribunal's report and has formally communicated its decision. The JSC is scheduled to convene a sitting for consideration of the report on the 5th of next month. Judge's Secretary Andy Swamengo's lawyers are preparing to make submissions to the JSC on the report, which they say romanticizes sexual harassment in the workplace. The tribunal report recommended a lesser sanction for misconduct, which effectively saves him from possible impeachment. The North West Provincial Government has taken over the running of the Matlosana local municipality in Klerksdorp. The municipality has been marred by allegations of corruption, political instability and disunity. It has also been experiencing administrative challenges as a result of conflict between the dismissed CFO and the municipal manager. The MEC for Cooperative Governance, Khawahi Mulapisi.
We then resolved to intervene in Matlosana through Section 1391B, that is taking the powers of the municipality. And this is as a result of the court battles that are involving the municipal manager, the CFO, the issue of the CFO, the paralysis of the situation there where you find councillors are divided between the CFO and the municipal manager.
And finally, National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza says they hope timelines set out for the reconstruction of the Parliament building will be met in order to have next year's State of the Nation address taking place in the National Assembly again. She was responding to a question on whether SONA is being held for the last time this year at the Cape Town City Hall. It was raised during a media briefing by the presiding officers of Parliament on Parliament's state of readiness to host SONA. A major fire in 2022 caused significant damage to the National Assembly building. Didiza conceded that circumstances could delay the construction.
But me and you know that sometimes there are unforeseen circumstances from the building industry, some of which relates to inclement weather that might cause delay. But if everything goes according to plan, this is the last time we're having SONA in the City Hall.
Recapping the top story, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majortina has reassured Gauteng residents the soft water restrictions does not mean there won't be any water supply. A sentiment comes amid the announcement that there will be soft water restrictions across the province's 3 metros, being Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni and Tshwane. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Leap into February with some great car insurance savings from Outsurance. Like 45-year-old Jason, who saves an unbelievable 520 Rand on his 2025 Hyundai i10. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Why pay more when you could be saving? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it is soccer. Nedbank Cup draw setting up a blockbuster clash as Sundowns and TS Galaxy renew their rivalry. And in rugby, the Springboks selection battles intensify as Rassie Erasmus's radar shifts to the scrum half depth. We'll have the details just before 7:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We started Pretoria with some traffic lights offline just south of Vanderboom Junction. So it's Mansfield Avenue and Van Rensburg. Those lights off. It's causing a really big delay out of Pretoria North as well as swinging off Lavender through Vanderboom Port area on your way down to Paul Kruger. It's all very heavy in that part. Also a crash coming out of Pretoria, N14 south past Jean Avenue. That's a heavy backlog as you line up towards the M1 Brockfontein. And then once you get into Brockfontein, shortly thereafter, a queue between Old Joburg Road and a broken down vehicle around Olifantsfontein Road. The Mike 1 from Monday up towards Parktown's Oxford Road is heavy, and the N12 and R24 routes into Galulis are queuing up already today. Crossing into Durban, bit of pressure on the N2, just coming out from Amanzimtoti Gallery and Mall through the Prospect and looking quite slow. Then from the M7 through Westwood Mall, that's busy into the normal roadway.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to it, the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. Much of this hour really dedicated to a focus on the State of the Nation address. It's a big day. President Cyril Ramaphosa this evening will take to the podium to deliver the 2026 State of the Nation address. This, as the country, of course, marks a symbolic year, in terms of the democratic journey. 30 years since the adoption of the Constitution, 50 years since the Soweto uprising. Last year's SONA set out quite a number of priorities under the medium-term development plan, which focused on driving inclusive growth, reducing poverty and building a capable state, capable, ethical and developmental state. Infrastructure, jobs and transformation were at the core. So 12 months later, we'll be looking back what has been achieved, what is still outstanding in terms of those priorities, and where can more emphasis be placed in terms of the focus this year. Mabato Mokoena, Member of Parliament of the MK Party, the party's chief whip, is scheduled to be our first guest, and immediately after that we'll talk to Jan de Villiers from the DA as well as Mdumiseni Ntuli of the ANC. That's where we are going over the next half hour. But immediately after the update with Ndauling Lichela, we'll go back to that story about the Independent Police Investigative Directorate and their concerns about political interference, resource shortages, and a reliance on the very police that they are meant to be investigating. They do have to turn to the SAPS for certain kinds of evidence to be gathered, even as they investigate members of the SAPS. So you can see the conundrum there. The misalignment there. How do you rely on the person that you are investigating to help you with the investigation? So we'll speak to David Bruce just after we get an update from Ndauling. Your calls 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The second hour of the morning brief on this Thursday.
BVB's current mission is to stay close to the log leaders and win every match in the second round of the league. Meanwhile, the Carnival Club is eager to reveal their secret plan on match day. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund versus FSV Mainz on Friday, 13 February at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. Ezimnyama Ngenkani want to be remembered for stopping the reigning champions. However, Masandawana believe the Buccaneers will experience a long night of sadness. This is the Betway Premiership. Lisekazini forever. Catch the big clash between Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns on Wednesday, 18 February at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Then at 7:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
All right, so let's get into the conversation around the state of our nation. Tonight, President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the 2026 State of the Nation address as the country marks a symbolic year in its democratic journey, 30 years of constitutional rule and 50 years since the Soweto uprising. Last year's SONA set out a set of promises under the medium-term development plan, and those focused on driving inclusive economic growth, reducing poverty, and building a capable, ethical, and developmental state with infrastructure, jobs, and transformation at its core. Over the past 12 months, government has launched a number of infrastructure projects, expanded economic reforms, and in some instances attempted to strengthen service delivery frameworks, although with great difficulty, as attested to by the current water situation we are facing, as well as the near dysfunction of many municipalities. We were scheduled to speak to Mabato Mokoena of the MK Party, the MK Party chief whip, just battling with getting Mabato on the line, and the team will give me a signal whether or not we have, okay, I'm told we have Mabato on the line. Good morning to you, Mabato, and thank you for your time. So just over the last 12 months, the undertakings were made in the State of the Nation address in 2025, the first of the 7th administration, the first of the government of national unity. Before we get into what your expectations are, what's your assessment of how far government has gone in delivering on this medium-term development plan and its commitments? Mabato?
Hi, sorry, I was having a hard time hearing you. Can you go again?
I'm saying your assessment of how far the government has gone in fulfilling the undertakings made in last year's State of the Nation address under the medium-term development plan.
Hi, firstly,
Good morning to your listeners. I am having a bit of a breakdown in hearing you. However, if I heard you correctly, you want to know the assessment of how far the GNU has gone in fulfilling its mandate, right?
Yes.
We feel like the GNU has had opportunities, many of them, but it has consistently fallen short of fulfilling the mandates that South Africans entrusted them with. And economically, growth has been slow, unemployment remains stubbornly high, and obviously inequality continues to widen. Politically, decisions have often been cautious. They are protecting institutions from scrutiny rather than strengthening them for the public good. And basically, social and basic service delivery still leaves too much they haven't really done much about that. And it's not that nothing has been done per se. There have been programs, policies, and speeches, but the impact on the lives, on the real lives of South Africans is limited.
Do you give them any credit for the nascent turnaround in as far as the implementation of structural reforms are concerned? The pipeline industries, your Transnet, your Eskom, fixing that, but also what we are told now is slow emerging growth, albeit still anemic in terms of the levels at which it's happening. 1.3% is what the IMF expects. Our removal from the FATF grey list, as well as the credit ratings upgrade. Do they get any credit from you for that?
With respect, trust has to be earned through consistent action. And in the case of Eskom, the GNU has repeatedly shown that it's struggling to translate plans into actual results. And we've seen decades of promises about structural reform, but power cuts continue, the debts have remained high, and the operational inefficiencies are still crippling our economy. And leadership that manages decline politely is not the same as leadership that fixes the problem. And as the MK Party, we've been very clear from the start that energy security is not just a policy item, but it's actually a matter of national survival. And that's why we've interrogated energy budgets in Parliament, and we've pushed for concrete oversight and proposed alternative solutions. And we do not just criticize, we prepare to govern.
So going into tonight's State of the Nation address, what notes would you like to see the president hit that for you, if he addresses one or two or three issues, then he will have delivered a proper and effective and appropriate State of the Nation address?
South Africans are basically tired of speeches that sound good but, do little. And we have a feeling that he will probably do the same. Our expectation is that the SONA must go beyond carefully worded promises and actually show bold leadership. The economy is in stagnation. Unemployment, again, remains high. And as I've previously said, the basic services are still falling too short for many households out there. We want the president to speak clearly about the issues that matter. We want him to be clear on land reform, particularly expropriation without compensation, energy security, the structural reforms across the state. South Africans deserve clarity and not the ambiguity that we've been hearing in the past. And the MK Party has also grown rapidly and is ready to govern. So we want to see what he will put to the plate today. Our work in Parliament has already shown that we are disciplined, we are focused, we are already shaping the solutions. And hopefully South Africans will see with the SONA that the MK Party is ready to rule, and we are the ultimate choice for 2026 local government.
All right, Mabato, thank you for your time this morning. That's Mabato Mokoena, who is Member of Parliament, also the MK Party's caretaker chief whip in the National Assembly.
Masandawana chase victory to book their place in the quarterfinals. But standing in their way is a familiar face. Former coach Rulani Mokoena returns home from the People's Club, aiming to end the Cabo Yellow dream. This is the CAF Champions League. Catch Mamelodi Sundowns up against MC Alger this Saturday, 14 February at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's pick up the conversation around the State of the Nation address expectations. Let me talk now to Jan de Villiers, who is a member of the DA in Parliament, DA MP and spokesperson. Good morning to you, Jan, and thank you for your time. Just your reflections on the past year. I imagine, Jan, that if you were still on the other side of the aisle, you would not be scoring this government highly for delivery on its promises, certainly as far as the medium-term development plan is concerned. But I suspect the tone might be different. Am I wrong?
The listeners, yes, I think it's a very interesting position which we find ourselves in as the Democratic Alliance. As you basically, correctly point out, we were a party of opposition for many years, the main opposition party and the second biggest party in South Africa. And we now find ourselves in the government of national unity, a coalition partner with at least some measure of our hands on the levers of power. I think to be fair, if you look at the GNU's progress over the last year, there has been a little bit of green shoots and some good progress. The DA went into the GNU with one thing in mind. It is our best chance to rescue South Africa. And to rescue South Africa, we need to create employment through stimulating the economy. And if we look at what measures what indicators have been achieved thus far, one of the things we are particularly proud of is that we staved off a crisis last year with the VAT, the proposed VAT increase by the ANC, which would have been madness. There's just no way that we could have allowed South Africans to pay even higher prices for goods. But on top of that, the fact that South Africa has come off the grey list and that our credit rating has gone up, that there has been some pressure relief in terms of inflation. These are all signs that the economy is slowly improving, and most importantly, the government debt has been stabilized. And this is in no small way thanks to our Deputy Minister, Ashwa Sarupin, who's actively working inside Treasury to make sure that South African finances, that the country's finances are stabilized. Is there still lots to do? Absolutely. We've got one of the highest unemployment figures in the world, and that is not acceptable. And that's a real indicator of how urgent this problem is. So as the DA, what we really would like to hear from the President in the State of the Nation tonight is measures that will grow the economy and that will give more job opportunities for South Africans. Because that really is the only way that we can improve the lives of South Africans.
But do you take the blame and responsibility for the service delivery failures, which I think at the moment really are the biggest story going into the State of the Nation address? The water crisis playing itself out in regions that don't have a drought, but have a crisis simply because the infrastructure is not being maintained and there's not been investment in ensuring that the infrastructure performs optimally. You are now a party of government. The successes, you take credit. You should also take the blame and responsibility for the failures.
Yeah, so let me be very clear. It is absolutely unacceptable that basic services like water, electricity, roads, infrastructure, that those things are not being maintained and delivering the services to South Africa that they are constitutionally entitled to. That is not acceptable in any form. What I would like to say is that there where the DA has had the opportunity to govern, and that you will know is examples of the City of Cape Town and the municipalities, all of the municipalities that get clean audits on an annual basis, service delivery is by far the highest in the country. And the DA can only really influence service delivery there where we have the opportunity to govern. And that's why we ask South Africans to give us an even stronger mandate. At this stage, we only have 6 ministers in cabinet, which is obviously proportional to the amount of votes we received in the election. There where DA ministers are working, like Minister Leon Schreiber in Home Affairs, a real reform is happening in those departments. So there where we have a foot in the door, we really are trying to show South Africans that if they give us the responsibility of service delivery, they can expect better services. They can expect to get the services
Right.
they deserve. But the reality is, we are a smaller partner in a bigger coalition government. But that is not an excuse for the fact that people don't have water.
All right.
People should have water.
All right. Jan de Villiers is DAMP and also its spokesperson, talking to me ahead of the State of the Nation address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Lastly, let's speak to Mdumiseni Ntuli, ANC Chief Whip in Parliament. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Why should you get any credit? Because I do imagine that a big part of the speech by the President will include the matters I've been talking to this morning, recapping the green shoots that we are starting to see, the projected economic growth, albeit at a low level, but growth nonetheless. The turnaround in as far as Eskom, Transnet, the pipeline industries are concerned, the removal from the grey list, and the stabilization of public, the costs of borrowing. Why should we even give you credit for that when the material conditions are not changing? We're dealing with a major crisis in local government, as well as a water crisis, and unemployment, for example, remains very high at 32% on the official definition.
Good morning, Tula Susan. Good morning to the listeners of SAFM. I think firstly, let me agree with you that what you have listed as signs of progress in various sectors of the economy is an important it's an important intervention to change the course, given the situation that we've been subjected to over the past few years. Let me say over the past 2 or 3 years, where things were not demonstrating progress towards a positive direction. So let me not go back and recount those issues as we have indicated them. And I must say that all of those issues, all of those positive changes cannot be appropriated to individual ministers or ministers who belong to any political party. This is the effort of the government led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, including where there are challenges. You have already pointed out that we are still faced with major challenges relating to the collapsing infrastructure, the lack of maintenance, the challenges in local government, water provision, a major crisis that our people are facing in Johannesburg and in some parts of the country. Those are some of the things that, as the African National Congress in Parliament, we would expect the president to point out what kind of more and further interventions are going to be done to change the living conditions of our people. Our own focus as the ANC caucus is not only about the good work that has been done. Sure, we can say that, but what we're expecting is the president and the government that properly recognizes the state of the nation in terms of the ongoing crisis of water, collapsing infrastructure, unemployment not improving at a pace that not being defeated at the pace that we want, and therefore to say to the nation, more and above what we have achieved in the past year, these are the plans and the actions that we're going to take as the government to deal with those challenges.
But in terms of tracking the promises from last year's State of the Nation address, what's your sense of the ability to live up to those? For instance, we are now talking about a water crisis. There was an undertaking to have a National Water Resources Infrastructure Agency up and operational within a year. My understanding is that that's somewhere in the works, but it's not been achieved at this particular point to operationalize it. And also this ring fencing of budgets to deal with water and restructuring of local government. Instead, we've seen further deterioration in the state of local government.
You're quite right, Tula Sizwe, but I think there are certain things that the president committed last year with which we can be proud of, notwithstanding the fact that even those areas of improvement have not as yet met the expectations of our people. Just one or few examples. You would recognize that in the last, the third quarter of 2025, for instance, at least there was a bit of improvement in terms of the number of people who are getting jobs. I think close to 250,000, if not just above, people entered into the economy, which is a step in the right direction. It's not enough. We've got a huge crisis, but it's always better when me and you are unemployed and tomorrow you get job, and therefore I know that the next day I'm going to be the one that would be also getting into that space. ESCOM is another area that I think at the moment we have all the reasons to be happy about in terms of you see the improvement that is going on there. SAA, we had a huge problem over the past 2-3 years. You can see now SAA is on the air. It generates an income which is essentially going to make a necessary intervention in terms of the revenue required by the state, so that the state can therefore effectively deal with these other shortcomings that you and I and the rest of South Africans have identified. The collapsing infrastructure, water crisis or shortages that we're confronted with. And when you deal with those things, because they are infrastructure related, they are then going to help you to make an impact in terms of addressing the levels of unemployment in the country.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Dumiseni Ntuli is the African National Congress's Parliamentary Chief Whip. Let's go straight to N. Musa on standby with the latest news headlines.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still heavily backed up on the N14 coming out of Pretoria on your way to Joburg. It's crashed just past Jean Avenue, so between Jean and Brockfontein. That's where the crash is. Heavy backlogs to around the Vrede Road Bridge territory. Joburg's N12 and R24. It's in from Ekurhuleni approaching Galuli's heavy. Big backlogs as well coming up out of Germiston on the N12 N3. Albert and Germiston on your way towards Van Buren. That run up past Cement Factory and through Heldenace under pressure. And Allendale Road out of Tembisa on your way to Midrand. Massive delays this morning. Queues down towards the Mastiff Road junction. Durban crash on the N3 after the M13 Paradise Valley. Now that's having an impact on the N3 inbound and the M13 coming out of Pinetown into that N3 join at Paradise Valley. Both of those highways very heavy this morning. M4 Southern Freeway through Umpilu Kongela up towards the city centre busy. Cape Town R300 loaded with slow-go traffic from Delft through to Brackenfell, and no traffic lights at 35th Avenue Bishop Lavis. Behind that, Stellenbosch Arterial, Robert Sebukwe and Borchards Quarry around the top of the airport, all heavily backed up. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. So we have the draw for the next round of the Nedbank Cup, and you're saying that some traditional rivalries are being revived.
Oh, yeah, Tulas. What a draw. I mean, you don't even need a final when the draw is giving you Galaxy and Sundowns this early. So let's hope history doesn't repeat itself as we reload for an exciting round. We've got the draw completed now, and it's going to be an exciting one. Galaxy were the 2019 champions. They faced the 6-time winners, and that's Sundowns, who are desperate to reclaim the trophy after recent disappointments. Elsewhere, Stellenbosch FC will travel to Golden Arrows, while Orlando Pirates, the finalists in the last 3 editions, will host Keswick Stars. Other ties include a KwaZulu-Natal derby between Richards Bay and Amazulu, and Sekhukhune United against the University of Pretoria. The matches will be played over the weekend of the 21st of Feb, with venues still to be confirmed. In the meanwhile, the Mamelodi Sundowns defender Grant Kekana has refused to be drawn into the growing controversy surrounding the suspension of performance analyst Mario Marsha ahead of their CAF Champions League showdown against MC Alger. Marsha has been temporarily sidelined amid allegations he leaked tactical information to former coach Rulani Mokoena, now in charge of the Algerian side. What Kekana was comfortable to discuss was the noise from both their own fans as well as the opposition supporters.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of noise, especially surrounding us, But it happens when you've been at the top for so long. So I think it's something that, us as, especially the senior players, we come together and we tell even the younger guys not to focus too much on it. It's expected because everyone wants to take the throne from us. But it doesn't get to us, our job is obviously on the field, and we have to do our best to get back to where we were, and I don't think we're far off. It's just about that drop of the green coming our side, and that's all it is.
That's the Mamelodi Sundowns defender, Grant Kekana, on the morning brief. Now, Premier League results overnight saw Manchester City turn up the pressure at the top. They were comfortable 3-0 winners over Fulham, closing the gap on leaders Arsenal in the title race. Liverpool also kept pace, ending Sunderland's unbeaten home run with a narrow 1-0 away win. There was drama elsewhere. Burnley stunning Crystal Palace 3-2 at Selhurst Park, while Aston Villa boosted their Champions League hopes with a 1-0 win over Brighton, and it finished scoreless between Nottingham Forest and Wolves. And finally, tennis, Stan Wawrinka advancing at the Rotterdam Open, winning in straight sets in what will be his farewell season. And in Doha, Victoria Mboko reaching the quarterfinals of the Qatar Open, saving match point to stun the fifth seed Mira Andreeva in a dramatic 3-set win. That's your sport on the morning brief. We'll brief you more. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Yeah, just before I go to Ndauling, I do need to explain what happened with the headlines there. You do deserve an explanation, right? We can't just smooth it over and move on as if nothing happened. There was a bit of a technical difficulty in the connection between our studio at Radio Park and the studio from which you hear and Musa with the updates, and they're over there at TV Center. So that's just one of those situations, and we do apologize for that, and we'll be back with more updates for you a bit later on at 8 a.m. All right, let's get to Ndauling. Ndauling, the IMF has been talking about South Africa and the prospects of growth, and in fact reflective as well of 2025 before projecting what is likely to happen in 2026. While they strike a positive tone, they are also cautioning about global risks.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The International Monetary Fund warning that South Africa's recovery remains vulnerable to global headwinds, despite a slight improvement in its growth outlook. In its latest review, the IMF says rising geopolitical tensions, trade barriers, and ongoing policy uncertainty could weigh on exports and increase commodity price volatility. As an open emerging market economy, South Africa remains exposed to shifts in global demand and financial market conditions. Now, the fund has nudged up its GDP forecasts, expecting growth of 1.3% in 2025 and 1.4% this year, while inflation is projected to ease towards the 3% target. Now, that could create space for gradual interest rate cuts if price pressures continue to moderate. However, the IMF cautions that slow reform progress here at home, alongside tighter global financial conditions, could undermine confidence and stall momentum, reinforcing the need for faster structural reforms and stronger private sector-led growth.
And let's talk the residential property market. We're seeing a recovery there, are we not? And at the heart of it are first-time buyers.
You're absolutely right there, Tulas. The local property residential market is quietly being rebuilt by first-time buyers as interest rates have eased over the past year and a half. Affordability has improved, it seems, enough to pull new entrants off the sidelines. Now, according to CEF Property Group, newcomers now account for roughly half of all home purchases, a sign that momentum is coming from the entry-level segment rather than high-end upgrades. Now, lower monthly repayments and aggressive lending by banks are helping to unlock demand, particularly in more affordable provinces. Gauteng's metros and parts of Limpopo, as well as KZN, are seeing renewed activity, while, of course, elevated prices in the Western Cape continue to price many out. And let's say this bottom-up recovery is healthier and potentially more sustainable as it reflects genuine housing demand.
Lastly, Ntaoleng, how the markets looking at this?
Kicking things off in Asia, markets mostly in the green. Now, Japan's Nikkei extending its post-election rally to new highs, fueled by renewed confidence in domestic politics and the ruling administration's economic agenda. Stateside, futures are in the green, this despite concerns about the pace at which rate cuts might come through. Investors on that front also turning their focus to consumer inflation that print out tomorrow. Coming back home, higher commodity prices working in the JSE's favor, with the all share closing 0.7% higher. That also filtering through to the currency this morning. And also seems like no risk is being priced in ahead of the State of the Nation address. The Rand trading firmer against global peers at 15.88 to the dollar, 21.63 to the pound, and 18.83 to the euro. Oil also trending stronger over supply disruption fears as tensions between the US and Iran not letting up. Crude currently trading at below $69 a barrel.
All right, Ntaoleng, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you once again just after 8:30.
BVB's current mission is to stay close to the log leaders and win every match in the second round of the league. Meanwhile, the Carnival Club is eager to reveal their secret plan on match day. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund versus FSV Mainz on Friday, 13 February at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
It's time to say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival Franschhoek, happening in Franschhoek from the 27th to the 29th of March 2026. It is 3 days, 2 stages, the Archers and the Jazz Village, and a jazz-inspired multi-genre experience, plus a chilled Sunday slowdown to close, featuring the legendary Salif Keita, Herbie Tswayedi, Andile Yanana, Ayanda Sigate, Sisonke Konti, Madala Gunene, and Sibusile Xaba, plus Mandisi Jantjis, Billy Monama, Kesavan Naidu, Mos Mohale, Vusima Hlasela, and more than 20 additional artists still to be announced. This is where Montreux meets Africa. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster, or you can visit mjfsa.com in partnership with the SABC.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
18 minutes to 8. They are meant to be the police who police the police. But the Independent Police Investigating Directorate, IPID, is flagging its own structural and resource challenges that are getting in the way somewhat in terms of them doing that and fulfilling that mandate. The IPID has raised serious concerns about political interference, resource shortages, and reliance on the very police service it oversees while investigating crimes committed by law enforcement officers. Testifying before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, IPID's Director of Investigations and Acting National Head, Thuso Gefelakai, outlined the structural and operational challenges facing the police watchdog, particularly in high-profile murder investigations, including those involving members of the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department, the EMPD. Let's speak to David Bruce, independent researcher in policing, crime and criminal justice. He's also an ISS consultant. Good morning to you, David, and thank you for your time. Just what we're hearing in terms of the structural quirks and government quirks that are coming through from the testimony of Thuso Gefelakai of the IPID. Why do we have that? The weaknesses that we see, the reliance on the SAPS for the gathering of evidence by the IPID in cases involving SAPS members?
Right. Well, it's an interesting question. I think, many people would agree with the type of, let's say, the orientation of your question, that there's a problem in the resourcing of IPID, and that, that part of what needs to be done is to improve the resourcing of IPID. I tend to take a slightly different approach, which is that, in many ways I see, if we're talking about, for instance, police corruption, that we often do end up talking about IPID and its deficiencies, but, if we're talking about having professional policing in South Africa, then the first people who should be responsible for ensuring that there are proper standards of conduct should be the leadership of the police. And so, insofar as we're relying on an external agency to ensure that there's the police are upholding appropriate standards of conduct, that's likely to be inadequate. So, the going forward, it is important to strengthen IPID, but the overwhelming emphasis needs to be on much more vigorous accountability. In fact, if one's got police agencies that are permeated by corruption, then that should raise major questions for us about the suitability of our current police leadership, because we should expect our police leadership to be ensuring that they're in charge of organizations which are holding very high standards of integrity, and it's firstly on this kind of level that we need to be scrutinizing this issue. Certainly, IPID has a role to play, but it's a mistake to kind of emphasize the questions to do with the resourcing and the powers provided to IPID in speaking about this issue.
So your sense is that if we dealt with the problem at source, at SAPS level, ensuring that there's proper leadership, proper recruitment, these problems wouldn't arise, with the result that would you then say that the current IPID as it is would be adequate if we dealt with those issues at source, at SAPS?
Well, I mean, there's big questions here, but you see, I mean, for instance, year after year, the SAPS has been coming up with anti-corruption strategies. And, having an anti-corruption strategy has been used by the SAPS as a way of sort of pretending, that they are taking corruption seriously. And so it's partly, a question about our oversight structures, such as the parliamentary committees and the Minister of Police and so on, because, obviously, whether the police are tackling corruption needs to go, we need to be looking at much more than whether they are have got a anti-corruption strategy.
So just coming back then to the IPID itself and the work that is being done by the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry as well as the ad hoc committee out in Parliament, how important is that work for this particular agency within the broader social criminal justice infrastructure, given also its background and history, the points at which it has been caught up in some of the political machinations and intrigue? One goes back to the days of Robert McBride leading it, but also some of the testimony we're hearing now that has come through. How important is that this work that is being done now is thorough in as far as IPID is concerned, so that it strengthens this agency?
Well, you see, I mean, I think, my concern would be that there's almost like an assumption that, and it seemed in the kind of questions that were being asked by the commissioners yesterday, I got the impression that they were also following this kind of reasoning that, what they're going to do is recommend that IPID be better resourced. But the current framework, insofar as you have a police service that is not itself required to rigorously ensure that its members uphold the highest standards of conduct, the consequence for IPID is always going to mean that they are simply overwhelmed with vast numbers of cases. And so, what I would, I would look at doing is, well, the one thing is, of course, focusing on what the police leadership are doing to ensure that corruption is being addressed. But then I would reconfigure the way in which IPID's mandate is conceptualized, so that they have much more flexibility in a way to dig much deeper into a component of the police where these problems are most chronic.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. That's David Bruce, independent researcher in policing, crime and criminal justice. He's also an ISS consultant.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy traffic on your way to Midrand this morning, Allendale Road, as you come out of Tembisa through Klipfontein View. That's all badly backed up. Also, the Olifantsfontein Road from Blue Hills down towards the highway. Again, really monumental traffic delays there. No traffic lights for the longest time at that Olifantsfontein N1 bridge system. That's what causes the big delays. It is easing through Pretoria North, but there's some lights out if you're coming down onto Paul Kruger. It's just past Vanderboom Junction, Mansfield and Van Rensburg. So a little bit of extra delay to get through that area this morning. Crossing to KZN, the N2 going north, we had some big trouble coming out of Amanzimtoti earlier towards Prospect, and that's all eased up. That's quite nice. It's looking okay. Then from the M7 through Westwood Mall, fairly standard delays there. Your second really big queue is up from Queen Nundy Drive on your way to Gateway. There's some very heavy pressure on that northbound run this morning, and a crash just after Paradise Valley. So it's in one of those locations where both the N3 and the M13 are impacted. So if you're on the N3 to Durban or you're on the M13 from the bottom of Fields Hill moving through Pinetown towards Paradise Valley, both of those highways heavily disrupted. Cape Town, major delay alert just north of the airport. Traffic lights down 35th Avenue at Bishop Lavis Drive, and behind that the traffic is impossibly gridlocked and backlogged inbound on Stellenbosch Arterial from Delft and coming up from Valhalla on Robert Sobukwe. Not much in terms of avoidable options there without travelling further afield and getting stuck in traffic, so give yourself a ton of time to get through. M5 is heavy, Kenilworth all the way to Kubo, get a change, and Marine Drive fairly sluggish this morning, Tableview at least as far as Sunset Beach. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
It's time to say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival Franschhoek, happening in Franschhoek from the 27th to the 29th of March 2026. It's 3 days, 2 stages, the Archers and Jazz Village, and a jazz-inspired multi-genre experience, plus a chilled Sunday slowdown to close. Featuring the legendary Salif Keita, Herbie Tswayedi, Andile Yanana, Ayanda Sigate, Sisonke Konti, Madala Gunene, and Sibusile Xaba. Plus Mandisi Tyankis, Billy Monama, Kasivan Naidu, Mos Mohale, Vusi Mahlasela, and more than 20 additional artists still to be announced. This is where Montreux meets Africa. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster or visit mjfsa.com in partnership with the SABC.
Call Tulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me go to your calls. I want to start with Mpahlele. Is it Maphehle? Is it Maphehle?
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes.
Maphehle in
Good morning, sir. How
Limpopo.
are
Good
you?
morning to you.
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm very well. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm just listening and waiting with great heart today, so on. Eh?
Yes.
But my concern is one. You know, this is song done by Barry White. Eh? He says, practice what you preach. Eh?
Yes.
Our seniors, as long as our seniors are putting in practice, are not putting in practice what they are saying, eh? The public won't be able to trust them.
Absolutely.
Yes. John Calvin Maxwell says, if you put the wrong people at the right places, you are causing confusion and frustration among the society.
Who says that?
John Calvin Maxwell.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes. So people who are leading us, they must have love, they must have passion, they must feeling for the nation they are leading.
Yeah. No, I can't.
Yes.
I can't agree with you more, Maphehle. So, do you have any high expectations? What do you want to hear from the State of the Nation address?
Let our seniors be prepared to save the nation, especially on service delivery. If you go to our schools, our police station, they are grassy, no clean, no one cleans the places.
Yeah.
So let them work on the institutions where people will be safe, secure, and sure of the promises they are making to us.
I hear you. Maphehle, thank you for calling in. That's Maphehle in Limpopo. Let me go to Thabo in Germiston, also on the State of the Nation address. Good morning to you, Thabo.
Hi, good morning, Tulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Tulas, my message to the president regarding the SONA is that this cut and paste must come to an end. You know, every time when there's a SONA, us as South Africans hearing the same promises over and over again, we are really sick and tired of that. The fact of the matter is that services in this country have collapsed, have totally collapsed. And the main reasons why these services have collapsed, you know, you saw people are talking about water, electricity, and things like that. Services have collapsed primarily because of three reasons. You know, corruption, state capture by criminal syndicates. You know, there's Matanga, there's ad hoc. Our government has been captured by criminal syndicates. And also there's an issue of illegal, you know, immigration in this country. That has actually put a heavy strain on services in this country. So those are the main key issues that, I'm not saying there are no others. Those are the main ones that have actually contributed to the collapse of services in this country. This country is in a crisis. It needs crisis intervention, not political rhetoric and empty promises to us.
So as far as you are concerned, if we attended to those three, and I like that you acknowledge that there are others, but you think if those three were addressed, it would start turning the curve as far as the multiple crises that are playing themselves out are concerned?
Absolutely, Tulas. And I want to repeat that the country is in crisis mode, and we need crisis intervention from the president and his government, not just talk, empty talk and empty rhetoric. We are sick and tired of that.
All right, Thabo, thank you for that. Got you. That's Thabo there out in Germiston weighing in on the State of the Nation address. And in fact, quite a number of your messages that have come through have to do exactly with that, the State of the Nation address.
Good morning to the Sizwe. This is VA from Rift Valley Extension 2 and 3. To the Sizwe, today the president is going to tell us the usual story. Tinswalo, the trick results, Mahlanga Commission, the billions that has been set aside, and at the background, you'll be hearing the ANC members clapping hands. Thank you very much.
Yeah. They're no longer clapping alone these days. They've got a whole coalition of 9 parties that are part of that.
Good morning, Tula Sizwe. You know, I'm not expecting any miracles from the African National Congress government and its alliance. And its alliance means including the DA, the Freedom Front, and so forth and so on. We have been failed by these people. There's nothing more that they can offer us. The 1912 movement has shown us that it's either they were deliberate in what they have done in messing up this country or keeping us in poverty, or they simply failed. They just don't have the capacity and the ability to rule the country.
Good morning, Tula and SAFM listeners. Yarich here from Yesterday's Pretoria. Tonight, the SONA, we don't want to hear what the ANC have done in the last 33 years or something like that. We want to hear what is the plan going forward. Because Sarah has been talking, but he hasn't been delivering. So, let's must see.
Morning, Julas, Chris in Camberton. You know, as we reach the day of the State of the Nation address, one cannot but be worried because we're facing a serious crisis of water supply, which actually is not a crisis of water, it's a crisis of governance. These are problems that are man-made and could have been averted, except that people who are so full of speeches, and as a country we don't need speeches, we need action.
morning to Lasizwe. On Ramaphosa and Sona tonight, I expect more lies, more deceit. We have a president who is fully backed and supported by the media. He just lies and moves on like nothing happened. He's never been challenged or held accountable for anything. It means in Diepkloof.
Menzi, thank you for that. And thanks to all the other listeners sending through their voice note messages about their expectations for the State of the Nation address. I wonder if those who influence the writing of the State of the Nation address take into account all of these sentiments, just the levels of the breakdown in trust in politicians and the leadership that comes through in many of these messages. I wonder if that is taken into the bargain in preparing for a speech like tonight's. Let's go to N. Musa on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, 400 billion rand needed to fix water infrastructure, and IPID senior investigator back at the Madlanga Commission. Good morning. Water and Sanitation Minister Pheme Majudina says 400 billion rand is needed to fix water infrastructure in municipalities across the country. This as water shortages in parts of Gauteng persist. On the eve of the State of the Nation address, some South Africans say they believe their basic human right to water is being violated. Majudina was speaking during a water media briefing in Johannesburg.
In terms of budget allocation, we cannot now hear myself and DM Mahlobo commit whether there will be an extra budget that is allocated to Gauteng province to be able to assist the municipalities. The budget vote is on the 25th. What we are going to do as a delegation sent by the president here, we are going to compile our report, but we must not tamsak about the challenges and the amount that is needed. In terms of water infrastructure at a local government sphere, we need nothing less than 400 billion to fix the water infrastructure.
IPID senior investigator Nomsa Masuku returns to the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria this morning. Yesterday, Masuku told the Madlanga Commission that it was wrong for police to register Emmanuel Mbense's murder as an inquest. Mbense was tortured and killed in Brakpan in April 2022, allegedly by members of the police. His body was later dumped in a dam at Nigel, east of Johannesburg. Masuku says it was evident that Mbense was killed as he had sustained injuries around his head.
By looking at the body found there is blood that shows that there is some injuries around the head, even though you won't know where. But if blood was running somewhere, then you see that this person is injured. So SAPS, they interviewed the witness, the police were there. They found the deceased had injuries, but still they continued and registered an inquest.
And in other news, attempted murder accused Vusimuzi Matlala and his co-accused are expected to appear in the High Court in Johannesburg this morning. The case was postponed to allow lawyers to indicate whether they were ready for pre-trial. Matlala has also indicated he intends to apply for bail based on new facts. He faces 11 counts of attempted murder along with a string of other charges. The University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape says it's business as usual despite ongoing protests by students and workers at the Alice campus. The protesting students want the insourcing of workers, proper accommodation, laptops for first-year students and allowances as provided by the National Financial Aid Scheme. The institution says it has made progress in addressing some of the issues. Spokesperson JP Root has defended the university's decision to increase fees.
The registrations have now concluded. Students that have been selected have been alerted and they've been registered. We've concluded the registration process. In terms of the residence fees, look, we need to delicately balance the institution's finances. So there was a slight increase in the residences price because at the end of the day, we also need to look at the financial sustainability of the institution.
And finally, Bold One SA leader Dr. Mmusi Maimane says he wants to hear about decisive action taken on various issues during this year's State of the Nation address. He was speaking ahead of President Cyril Ramaphosa's SONA speech later this evening. The address takes place at the Cape Town City Hall at 7 p.m. Maimane says he would want to hear a break from familiar messages of previous years.
He needs to not reorder the paragraphs from last year's speeches, but rather be able to tell us categorically who the Minister of Police is going to be so that we have stable leadership, that President Ramaphosa addresses the question of education, which is that how do we increase the number of learners who are taking maths and science, and thirdly, how do we ensure that our economy is able to grow at between 4 to 5%.
Recapping the top story, Minister of Water and Sanitation Phemi Majordina says 400 billion rand is needed to fix water infrastructure in municipalities across the country. For SAFM News, I am Ann Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
February may be a shorter month, but with Outsurance, your car insurance savings could go the distance. Like 35-year-old Zanai, who saves a whopping 1,180 on her 2017 Mercedes-Benz GLA. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 rand or 1,500 rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer, Nedbank Cup last 16 set for intrigue as Orlando Pirates, they're preparing for a tricky Kazrick Stars test. And we also bring you South Africa's Tristan Roberts winning the Morocco World Bodyboard Championship. The details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A lot of traffic on Joburg's N3. Coming out of Alberton and Germiston, Elan's interchange from that point all the way up through Heldenace, through Van Buren, and then on your way all the way through to about Modderfontein Road before you're out of that. There's a breakdown after Modderfontein Road, a crash at Heldenace, and just some general disruption getting through Galilee. So from Elan's all the way up to the top of Edenvale, very heavy backlogs there. Crash going into Sandton as well. It's Grayston Drive at West Street, so a lot of congestion around that side of Sandton this morning. M1 through Midrand, delays between Brockfontein and about New Road before you're out of that. Into Durban, coming out of Pinetown is heavy. It's an earlier crash at Paradise Valley, which is being cleared, but it's left a really big backlog on the M13 from St John's Avenue Bridge to the N3, and on the N3 moving past Pinetown. It should all start to ease up, but it is heavy. M4 at Virginia Airport both ways is thick. The N2 routing northbound is heavy this morning. Queen Lundy Drive all the way to Gateway. If you're on your way up towards the airport or Belito, give yourself time to get through that. Cape Town, very busy getting into Stellenbosch. All approaches heavy and no lights. 35th Avenue, Bishop Lavis causing major delays just at the top of the airport. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8. Welcome to it. This is the third hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. So let me start with some of the messages that have been coming through on the WhatsApp line. Charlie in Joburg says, unfortunately, the State of the Nation address will be a lot more of the same as all the others. Cyril Ramaphosa has destroyed South Africa with his government of corruption and totally incompetent leadership. The other message then comes through also from Charlie that says the 400 billion rand required to fix and repair South Africa's water infrastructure must be taken from the salaries of our government who have created the problems, says Charlie out in Joburg. Let me go to this one. President Cyril Ramaphosa only works for white monopoly. They are burning diesel at Eskom to keep capitalism happy. He also has to keep his ANC allies happy. And David Mahlobo was named in an Al Jazeera documentary about rhino horns, but he's still in the cabinet. Mkhunu is still getting paid every month. Holomisa once called Ramaphosa an apartheid spy. Now he's in the cabinet. He's quiet as the night. I take it that's a reference to Bantu Holomisa now that he is in cabinet. And then lastly, let me read this one from Jen. Doesn't this water crisis remind you of the peak of the Eskom crisis when the ANC was looting? People need to wake up and vote for change, says Jen out in Cape Town. Let's keep the conversation going. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107.
You can become a victim of a legal problem: wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Labels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from 150, evening tickets from 350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick n Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows.
The Sea Robbers are on a real mission to go back to their days of happy people. But Bahlabane Bantwa say they are only going to Orlando Stadium to collect 3 points.
This is the Betway Premiership. Nisekazini forever.
Catch Orlando Pirates versus Marumo Cannons this Saturday, 14 February at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
12 minutes after 8. The National Business Initiative is urging President Cyril Ramaphosa to use the State of the Nation address to frame the country's water, energy and climate challenges as urgent economic priorities rather than environmental side issues. Ahead of SONA and the Africa's Green Economy Summit, AGES, NBI CEO Shamila Subramani has called for a decisive shift from policy planning to coordinated execution through a structured national delivery compact to address what she describes as an interconnected triple threat to economic stability. Let's speak to her, Shamila Subramani, CEO of the National Business Initiative. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Let's start with the triple threat that you are flagging. What is this triple threat and how should it be approached going into tonight's SONA?
Good morning to the Sizwe and good morning to the listeners. Thank you for having me. We're looking at the issues around water, energy and climate, in particular energy instability, water scarcity and climate disasters as the broader framing of the triple threat. And the real push that we have is that these should not be seen as separate fringes or side issues or environmental issues, but they fundamentally are going to attack the economic foundations of the country. So from a water scarcity perspective, it paralyzes supply chains. Energy instability devastates productivity, and our climate disasters cause massive fiscal shocks. And of course, all of those have serious socioeconomic consequences. So that's the framing we're looking at. And in terms of the compact, saying that we know that, and I think I'm not the only person to have said this, listening to the expectations coming out for what we would like the president to say today. But what are we going to look at on the implementation, and how do we have accountability? And that is the delivery compact, and something that the NBI has really been trying to work on for about 30 years now, with good experience of how this can work between government and business in particular.
What does the delivery compact look like? Because a lot of the times in speeches, especially in speeches by the president, you will hear about a social compact, but you are talking a delivery compact. What does that look like?
So the first part, I think, is that the notion of the social partners absolutely does need to continue, because you're not going to get buy-in if you continue to just have one or two parties involved. But what we do need to focus on is the clear outcomes that we know. So we're talking about 2 or 3, maybe 5 measurable things. And then how do we get together to ensure that we've created the platforms and we're measuring that? The clear sort of areas that we want to look at is transparent and shared data, but also a shared understanding of the challenges. And if we can agree on a few of those and say, this is what we have, what is the shared data, and how transparent is that to the people who need to be able to make the roads into getting those things done. The second one, absolutely clear lines of accountability for outcomes. And accountability, of course, grows across the framework. I don't need to reiterate the challenges we've had around corruption, around misuse and badly spent money, but where are the clear lines of accountability for those outcomes? So when we put money to work, we're very clear about what that money is going to get. The other one is a genuine co-implementation of projects. And so those are the 3 key outlines, I think, of how we can make that work. And one of those examples has been, over the last few years, the business-government partnership, which has given us some limited instances of how something like that could be framed. But then bringing in 1 or 2 more of the social partners to understand that better, but clear accountability with very clear things. So Operation Vulindlela, as an example, with the business-government compact partnership, has been a great step in that direction, but we want to be able to see that scaled out, of course, much larger, and again, clear things around data, outcomes, and co-implementation.
Interestingly, the debate around and the issues around energy availability and stability have sort of been pushed to the back burner, because, you know, the more dramatic manifestation of load shedding has sort of been staved off at this particular point. But you insist as NBI that we should continue to focus on energy stability. What are some of the key actions that should be included in that focus?
So when we're looking at energy security, absolutely, there are certain key areas we need to look at, and that is the grid expansion program, the implementation of the transmission development plan. And we know when we're talking about this that in many instances, some of the green industries are the new frontier for jobs, industrialization, and trade competitiveness. So Tula, I'm framing it within that as well. And they offer immediate opportunities for growth. But the current plan that we have embarked on, as I've mentioned already, on grid expansion, but then the fast tracking of electricity market reforms and ensuring that the National Transmission Company becomes an independent grid and market operator, looking at the streamlined approvals for fair grid access for renewable projects, and of course the clarification on the targets and the supporting investment and incentives for renewable energy in that sort of 2030 to 2040 timeframe to guide the investment that we need to make now. The leveraging of some of the manufacturing incentives, like, for example, in EVs, which can position South Africa as a dual platform automotive hub, where we can produce both the ICE engines, but also the new energy vehicles, which we can see are growing. And we have capability to be able to do with the right planning and the incentives in place. So we're looking at this as saying, what can power the future? But of course, what do we need currently to maintain stability? So we're saying that both are needed into the future. We know that the cost and the long-term cost and the economic viability of renewables absolutely stands up in terms of that case. We do run the risk, if we invest too heavily right now in the wrong things, of stranded assets going into the future. But also South Africa, from an economic hub perspective, needs to look at where the rest of the world is going. We are an exporter. We want to be able to grow those markets. We want better access. And so the economics of what that means, including our own energy mix, is going to be critical to have the longer term view for us.
Lastly, Shamila, the issues around water supply and water infrastructure are front and center at the moment. And in fact, they were mentioned even in last year's State of the Nation address. Why is the issue of water and its infrastructure not just about service delivery, but actually an issue that directly impacts the economy and therefore also deserving to be made a priority?
Thank you, Teresa. Water absolutely needs to be seen as economic infrastructure. Industries are dependent on it. If you look even at our economic structure in the country, and this is very true, particularly for developing and emerging economies such as ours, a significant portion of our GDP is directly related to the need for water and also the actual relationship with nature. And the only reason I'm bringing that in is because that is a codependency. If we don't have enough of that, if we don't have it in the right places, we're actually directly threatening many industries. If we take a simple example, and many small businesses, for example, who have that and whose businesses are dependent on being able to have a hygienic place. If you're, for example, in a beauty industry, as one small one, we know that small businesses need to thrive. Their ability to adapt and to make a plan, so to speak, when they don't have access to that, can directly kill those businesses. We saw that when we had energy instability issues and security of supply, and how that attacked that part of the economy the hardest, that we actually are saying that we're banking our growth plans on. So that's one of the key ones. And of course, water as itself is not something that's easily substitutable. And economic infrastructure is the way in which I think we need to frame that. And from the focus, from a SONA perspective, has to be on fixing and maintaining municipal water infrastructure. The other one is the scaling of wastewater reuse as a key one. We know we're a water scarce country. So firstly, preserve what you have, but then how can you use that to the maximum? And then the other one, which talks more to our green infrastructure, is the catchment protection and restoration. All of these need to be framed within the context that should these things not be optimized, our economic infrastructure is seriously at risk.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Shamila Subramoni, CEO of the National Business Initiative.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Welcome to it. This is season 1 of Playlist happening right here at Maloka, and believe me, it's a party.
Set your reminder every Friday, 9 p.m. Playlist at Maloka is in the building.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
Call Tulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me go to the calls. Let me start with Magdalene in Bloemfontein. Good morning to you, Magdalene.
Morning to us and the listeners. Hey, to us, it has been a long time that I've
been a
been
while.
tired. Ne?
Yes.
Yeah, it's because I was not angry. I was praying very hard.
You were praying very
I
hard.
was
That makes sense.
Yeah, to
Yes.
say, Heavenly Father, please release us from these people because really they treat us. They treated us badly like the Israelites in Egypt. So I'm going to say I don't expect too much from the president. What I expect from the president on SONA is just to say, South Africans, I am throwing it away now. We as the ANC, we failed you dismally so because we focused too much on economically empowering the foreign nationals than you. So he's supposed to just throw it out and say, I'm tired of lying to you people because I've been talking lies and implementing the opposite from what I promised you. So it's enough. South Africans, Operation Dudula in Gauteng, take it over. National Service Delivery Forum in Free State, take it over. So start your own pulse. Go back to IEC and start your own pulse and elect your own president and your own cabinet so that you get what you deserve as South Africans. This is too much for me.
Yeah.
Neglect it.
Sure.
Neglect it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Magdalene. Thank you for that. Magdalene expressing that disillusionment that has been coming through as a thread, really, in many of the calls and messages that we've taken this morning. Let me go to Irene in Rivali. Good morning to you, Irene.
Good morning, Tulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you? You're sounding upbeat.
I'm
You're
very
lifting my
well.
mood this morning.
I would love to, but I am very upset, know.
Yes.
And I hope that we will get the Minister of Education back on the line one day or soon, regarding this mathematic papers and the physical science that they wrote, that the matriculants wrote last year. Really, it is such a disgrace because everywhere you go now, people are queuing up at all the schools trying to get in to rewrite. Why? Why? That paper was so bad that the children all failed or virtually came down to 4 and 3. My granddaughter got a bachelor in CAT, she got a bachelor in Afrikaans, she got a bachelor in other subjects, and she was one of the best in her class with maths last year up until the exam paper came. When she saw her marks, she burst out crying because she didn't expect it. Everyone where you go is complaining about that mathematics paper and that physical science paper. I really hope that they will have an investigation or find out who said that paper and how, competent that person was that said that paper.
So what is the complaint about the maths and science paper, Irene? Is it that it was set to a standard far higher than at the level at which the teaching had
Not
happened?
even that. It was, they didn't, things that they never were taught.
Oh, I see.
They all got a fright. Even the best schools. I listen to the other stations,
yes.
and students phoning in. And I don't know if it's to throttle the people getting into university, because those are the most important subjects that you need to get into university.
Yeah.
She wanted to go and do veterinarian studies, but because of that, she got a 4 and a 3 for maths and physical science, which she never ever had in her life. And I really hope that we will do an investigation and an inquiry on that 2 papers. Yesterday, I went with her to go and try and get into a place or to go and, to apply again to rewrite. Everywhere you go, the schools are packed, children standing in queues trying to get into rewrite those particular papers. There's even a sign on the door that says maths and physical science full.
Irene,
why?
Yeah. Irene, thank you for calling in and for flagging that issue. I wonder what the experience is of other parents of children who wrote the maths and science paper. Irene saying that there are a lot of complaints about it and content that was in the paper according to Irene, in some instances being content that was simply not taught to the children, to the pupils who were doing matric last year. I wonder what the situation is, and perhaps someone at the Department of Basic Education can set us straight and call in and talk to us about, have they received these complaints? What are these complaints about, and what is the response really to what Irene says are widespread concerns? A lot of people want to talk about infrastructure, particularly water infrastructure in the country.
Tullus, good morning. That news bulletin there with Anne, who's fantastic, by the way. There's no way that 400 billion can go to those municipalities. Please, goodness. No ways. That money will be stolen so quickly. It won't be going to the water project. So, yeah, I certainly hope there's proper oversight there. 400 billion, that's too scary to mention.
That's
Brad
a lot
Marisburg.
of money. Brad, thank you for that. Ring fencing seems to be the word of the moment. The president talked about it last year, ring fencing, and also creating specific entities that deal with water and water infrastructure, even at municipal level. But that 400 billion rand, that's just a shocking number. The needs of municipalities to be able to fix the water infrastructure, according to the water minister. So, I mean, that just tells you the scale of the problem that we are dealing with. And Brad says Anne is fantastic. I don't disagree. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, Tulas.
You have a fan.
Well, thank you.
Please go ahead.
In the headlines, with only a few hours left before the State of the Nation address, some residents in Johannesburg have called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the ongoing water crisis that has left several communities with dry taps. IPID senior investigator Nomsa Masuku returns to the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria this morning. The commission is probing allegations of political interference, corruption and criminal infiltration in the criminal justice system. And the Patriotic Alliance has won Ward 16 in New Dawn Park in George in the Western Cape following yesterday's by-election. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy getting into Sandton at the moment, particularly from the Morningside area. A crash on Grayston and West a little bit earlier has really caused a big delay coming on Rivonia from Morningside. Behind that South Road across from Morningside in towards Rivonia Junction is heavy as well. Lights are also out, Grayston and Daisy. So coming off the Mike 1 Highway onto Grayston and into Sandton, that's heavy as well. Crash scenes on the N3 north at Heldenace and another just past Galulis up from Alberton, Germiston on your way to Edenvale. Very heavy today. Durban, the earlier crash on the N3 near Paradise Valley is cleared some time ago. The N3 is moving okay. M13 leaving Pinetown still very slow. The N2 badly backed up from Umgeda Road on your way to Spaghetti Junction. That's N2 southbound. And Cape Town, if you're going into the city centre this morning, looks like Cape Town's largely prepared. A bit of work from home action, I think. Not so much traffic this morning because of all the restrictions for Sona in the CBD. So it is busy, but noticeably lighter. One area you will queue heavily just north of the airport. Lights down, 35th at Bishop Lavis. Big queues on Robert Sibukwe and Stellenbosch Arterial in that area at the moment. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. So we've heard of the treble, and Orlando Pirates are hoping that they can make it a quadruple.
There we go. That's right. That's the word of the day. We move from triple to quadruple. And as always, it's Pirates, holding that conversation. And they aren't chasing anything. They are definitely putting it out there. And it's confidence that they've got in their team. The likes of Tapelo Toki saying hunger and belief are fueling their push. Already they're holding the MTN 8, they're calling knockout titles, they're leading the Betway Premiership. Pirates turning their focus to the Nedbank Cup, where they've been drawn at home against Motsepe Foundation Championship. The High Flyers, Kazrick Stars. Now, Tapelo Toki saying, while Pirates are strong at Orlando Stadium, there is no fixture they'll take lightly.
Yeah, we are an ambitious club. Everyone that gets into the club knows first being first. We play every tournament to win it. Doesn't matter which one is it. But we know it's never easy, but we try our best to compete in all fronts. And now 2 trophies was in 2025. In 2026 we don't have anything yet on our side, and that's a motivating factor on its own. We still have a lot of room to improve. There's goals we've left, there's goals we've let in, so there's always something to improve on. That's the motivating factor that with the success we've had, we still have a lot of room to improve. So we still have a lot of things to play for also. It's still early, it's in February, so we know the league is finishing in May. The tournament also is finishing in May, but we'll take it one game at a time. We can't look ahead too much. We can't also look behind, because the success behind is behind and it's history now. So we have to try and get new success and create new history.
Let's go to cricket, where West Indies made it 2 wins from 2 at the T20 World Cup, beating England by 30 runs in Mumbai after posting 196 for 6. The story of the night was Shafane Rutherford, who played a match-winning hand, 76 not out of 42 balls, dragging the Windies out of trouble after they slipped to 128 for 5. But nevertheless, it was the Windies who came through. Moving on, we've got a busy day on the tennis circuit. Strong performances across the ATP and WTA tours. In Dallas, Spain's Alejandro Davidovich Fokina moved into the quarterfinals with a win over the American Alex Michelson, while the 5th seed Tommy Paul fought back from a set down to beat fellow American Jenson Brooksby in a tense 3-setter. Over in Rotterdam, Stefanos Tsitsipas continued his recovery from a slow start to see off Arthur Rinderknech in straight sets to reach the last 8. On the women's side in Doha, Elena Rybakina and Iga Swiatek both showing their class with comeback wins to book quarterfinal spots at the Qatar Open, while Canada's Victoria Mboko causing an upset, saving match points to knock out Mira Andreeva and set up a showdown with Elena Rybakina. And finally, South Africa is celebrating another world champion after Tristan Roberts claimed the 2026 World Bodyboard Championship in Morocco. The Cape Town-born rider beat the home favourite Shajiri Badr Eddine in the final at Anza Beach in Agadir, posting the top 2 scoring waves of the contest. It was a winning start to the season for the 2-time world champion, who now leads the early standings on the IBC World Tour. And that's your sport on the morning brief. Making waves at around 12:30 will be John Gericke with more. I am Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndaulen, good morning to you once again. Let's start in the banking sector. What's this speculation now? Standard Bank, Nedbank, Investec. What's this conversation?
So a few weeks ago, Tulas, a SENS announcement revealed that Standard Bank had increased their stake in rivals Nedbank and Investec, sparking speculation about possible corporate action in the banking sector. And according to a Business Day article, the lender is seeking to calm those concerns, right? What we are seeing in a regulatory filing, that is, the group says its various subsidiaries, including Liberty, SPG, Securities, and even unlisted asset management firms, may acquire shares in other JSE-listed companies as part of normal trading and investment activities. Standard Bank stressed that these holdings are managed independently and do not represent strategic investments by the group. The clarification follows disclosures indicating Standard Bank held more than 5% of Nedbank and close to 6% of Investec. Now, Nedbank has since suggested the initial notification may have been issued in error, with the matter now before the takeover regulation panel. Standard Bank maintains that crossing disclosure thresholds does not signal takeover intent. Instead, it's really just their subsidiaries engaging in some action and not necessarily the group.
Yo, Ndaulen, I must say I did not know this, that Standard Bank has some interest or another in Nedbank and Investec.
It made such big news about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There was so much confusion around it, and so that's why it's moved to sort of clarify what's happening.
Sure. Wow. All right, let's talk more company news. Tell me about Growth Point and their investment in this KZN logistics hub.
So Growth Point is doubling down on KZN, betting that logistics will remain one of the strongest themes in South Africa's commercial property market. The group has broken ground on a 392 million rand logistics development in the north of Durban, a location strategically positioned near King Shaka International Airport and the Port of Durban. Now, the new multi-tenant facility forms part of Growth Point's broader shift toward industrial assets as demand for warehousing and distribution space continues to outpace supply. Industry data shows logistics and industrial property are outperforming other commercial segments, supported by online retail growth and supply chain optimization. Growth Point says KZN continues to deliver high occupancy levels given its confidence to keep allocating capital to the province. Now, beyond logistics, the group is also investing in student accommodation in Durban, targeting persistent housing shortages near major universities, further signaling long-term confidence in the region's growth prospects.
Wrap it up for us. What kind of a trading day can we expect?
So the JSE likely to open mixed as markets try and find direction. A quiet day on the company news front, but we do have President Ramaphosa delivering the State of the Nation address, the second one under the GNU. That not really moving markets so far, and we have seen the rand continuing its rally, trading stronger against global peers at 15.88 to the dollar. 21.85 to the pound and 18.85 to the euro. Then over in commodities, oil in the green as fears around supply disruption push crude prices higher. It's at $68 a barrel this hour. Stateside, futures in positive territory ahead of inflation data. Now that delayed report will be released tomorrow. And then lastly, in Asia, trade on track to close in the green with Japanese stocks still benefiting from the post-elections rally.
Dowling, thank you for that. Let's talk again tomorrow. Dowling Lechela has kept you updated on business, economics and the markets.
Get Spar Super Savings at every store, in every aisle, every day. Buy 1 kg Spar French, garlic, chili or chicken polony for $32.99 plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 1 kg Spar Daily Spread Tub for $38.99 plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Now that's super savings. Prices valid from 9 till 22 February. While stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Welcome to it. This is season 1 of Playlist happening right here at Maloka, and believe me, it's a party.
Set your reminder every Friday, 9 p.m. Playlist at Maloka is in the building.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
19 minutes to 9. As global economic uncertainty deepens, South Africa has a strategic opportunity to reposition itself as a leading hub for African trade and investment. And that's according to the finance academic Jason Hamilton. Ahead of the 2026 State of the Nation address, Hamilton argues that with Africa projected to be the world's fastest growing economic region and the African Continental Free Trade Area gaining momentum, President Cyril Ramaphosa must outline a bold but practical reform agenda to unlock growth, attract investment, and tackle unemployment. Jason Hamilton, guest lecturer in corporate and development finance at Stellenbosch Business School, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Jason, and thank you for your time. So just reading some of what you've been writing and saying about the opportunity that we face on the African continent, it sounds to me as if you are suggesting that a confluence of factors at a global level on the African continent itself presents an opportunity, a window of opportunity that we must seize as South Africa. What is this window of opportunity?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I think you set some great context already for what that opportunity entails, despite the risks we face. So again, amongst this global volatility, the geopolitical and trade tensions we see, and disruption along well-entrenched pillars of international order, Africa as a continent is becoming one of resilient economies and then optimism. So while we see global economies and global growth sputter, Africa is really picking up, and specifically South Africa as one of the continent's largest economies must see this opportunity. So if we look at SONA, what we want to see is it has to be used to send a strong signal of bold but a very concrete agenda of participation in the African economic opportunity by unblocking country structural hurdles in a way to expand business, investment, and employment. And key focus areas of this is modernizing regulations, cutting red tape, facilitating the ease of doing business with ourselves, with our partners on the continent. Of course, also upgrading in energy, logistics, digital infrastructure, and through all of that, also addressing youth unemployment through digital skills, technical trades, and a focus on entrepreneurship. And broadly speaking, there's also a role to play for Africa to accelerate trade diplomacy and really take a leadership role in that agenda of driving intercontinental trade.
So this is all fascinating because it sounds to me as if, it's an extension of this conversation, Jason, that we've been having about structural reforms within our own economy. But you are saying there's opportunity and there's need to actually expand that and take a regional and a continental view to it all.
That is 100% correct. So I think South Africa on its own is very well positioned to serve as a manufacturing hub, a services hub for the continent. And again, leveraging our strengths already, our relatively advanced infrastructure, our financial system, to really connect Africa producers to customers. Now, and in context, again, if we look at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, of course, it's not a magic wand, but it creates one of the world's largest free trade blocks by membership. And then from an economic perspective, you're talking about a 3.4 trillion market covering 1.3 billion people. And of course, we know Africa's got a young population, rising middle class. And it's forecast that this could boost, focusing on that could boost inter-Africa trade by over 50% by 2035. But of course, South Africa here also then stands at a crossroads where global turmoil can either compound our problems or spur us to make bold changes to harness our human capital and take advantage of, to a degree, the natural factors that's been provided to us from a continent perspective. So it cannot happen in isolation.
So that's the context for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that you've set out, the potential that has been outlined over a period of time. But what are the early returns that we are observing since the beginning of countries signing up to the free trade area and starting to operate within that mode?
Generally speaking, we have seen some traction, and again, we also know that there has been some short-term gains with some linked trade happening, but it is still small. I think what stands out for me, and this is data that came out over the last few days, is we know that we've had trade impacted by the tariffs. We have had trade impacted by just the global supply chain instability and then the geopolitical tensions. But what is very interesting, that a lot of the drop we've seen, which has been significant, a 30 to 40% drop, but then that very quickly being absorbed into inter-Africa trade, which again highlights what power and potential it actually holds for ourselves on the continent to trade more with ourselves. And also as context, we are probably sitting at about a fifth of intercontinental trade if you compare ourselves to the European Union and the UK. So again, this provides a massive opportunity for us to take advantage of facing the complexities with traditional partners, but doing much more with ourselves.
Lastly, Jason, it sounds to me as if if I take an editor's approach, that perhaps this calls for a rejig of how the speech itself is structured, because you tend, in true almost ANC style of writing, Africa and the continent and the rest of the world, international relations relegated to further down in the speech. From what I'm hearing you say, it perhaps should be lifted up a little bit more, even highlighted and enforced quite strongly. What would that sound like? One or two of the priorities that you believe would reflect that shift in thinking about the opportunity that is presented on the continent?
I think there's definitely a leadership role to take. So I think firstly on that. So I think if we want to attract both foreign and local investors to bet on South Africa, we need to create jobs in the process. We have to signal that our bureaucracies will not stand in the way. We need to give predictable investor-friendly rules that can unleash entrepreneurship and attract capital. And in relation to that, also support SMEs to become export-ready, providing trade finance and information about how to take advantage of that. And this, of course, links to a digital agenda as well. So 2 points in closing on that is that on the digital agenda side, it also means education, upskilling, putting infrastructure in place. It also links to protocols that has been agreed through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area for South Africa to take leadership in that, in implementing those. So again, it's taking this opportunity to demonstrate that government has plans to deal with global risk, and that this sees opportunities. We see it as an opportunity, but we actually have the plan and the strategy to seize that. But it has to translate into action. And I think we've seen some great action. We saw the stabilization of a few of the SOEs. We saw Eskom being stabilized. So there's definitely good momentum, but we need to continue with that and make sure that whatever plans is laid out translates into clear strategy and then measurable impact.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Jason Hamilton, who is guest lecturer in corporate and development finance at Stellenbosch Business School.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quite a busy morning on the run into work at Sandton this morning, particularly in from the Morningside area. Lights are down again on Rivonia and South, so both of those routes on your way to Sandton are backed up. Crash coming in off Sandton Drive, turning onto Grayston. That crash up by Grayston and West, so from Hurlingham, that's all dreadfully slow. And traffic lights are down coming off the Mike 1 at Grayston and Daisy, so some very heavy backlogging into Sandton from that side. Basically, all approaches except the run-up from Ilovo, which is looking okay. Crash scenes on Joburg's N3 North near Cement Factory. That's slow. Another one just past Galuli's up by Linksfield Road. So 2 queues to work through on the N3 routing north this morning. R21 north at Olifantsfontein into the roadworks on your way to Pretoria is quite slow as well. And there is the backlog of traffic heading in on the N4. There's a police incident just before the N1. This is the Emelathleni Highway going through to the N1. I think they call that the Cook Sister interchange. That's very, very slow going through there. Durban side, the N2 southbound under pressure on the run into Spaghetti Junction. Queues coming down from Inanda roadside, although I must say that looks a lot better than it was earlier this morning. And then Cape Town, noticeably lighter. I think Cape Town's aware of what's going on in terms of the CBD restrictions for SONA, so maybe a lot of work from home going on today, and you can certainly see that making a difference. The traffic is nowhere near it normally. It's normal levels for this time on a Thursday. There is a bit of delay, though. The N2 inbound from Langa to Hospital Bend. And Robert Sobukwe getting away from Valhalla up towards Moradam, towards 35th Avenue. Very slow. No traffic lights at Bishop Lavers causing that problem. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Sorry I'm late, Sevi. Had to fetch my lucky putter. No worries. Let's go. We're teeing off in an hour. Great. We're taking your car. Can't. It's already taken. What do you mean taken? It was right here when I left a few minutes ago. I sold it to Weber Cars and made a whole lot of green. Birdie told me that's the best way to sell your car. Not only the best way, it's the fair way. Kom ons vat die pad.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We buy cars geared for a fast sale, geared for you.
Eskom is upgrading old electricity meters with modern smart meters, giving you clarity, control, and confidence. With your new meter, you'll be able to see your usage in real time, giving you the power to manage your electricity with ease. Smart meters are accurate and help Eskom respond faster to issues. Please allow their authorized installers access to install your new meter. For more information, visit the Eskom website. Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Call to Lasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
There are a lot of your messages that have come through. So I want to just play them back to back and see if I can take one or two calls before we go. A lot of them have to do with the State of the Nation address, but for some reason, someone wants to talk about Mamelodi Sundowns.
Tulasizwe, hi, this is Musa from Watuguza. For me, President will have said nothing in his tonight if he failed to address the crisis at Mamelodi Sundowns and to announce the departure of Miguel Cardoso.
Yes.
For me, Tulasizwe, that is the real state of the nation.
Yeah.
It is in a crisis, my brother.
Yeah,
I thank you.
I hear you. So the president must say something about Miguel Cardoso and his tenure at Mamelodi Sundowns.
Good morning to Lasizwe. This is Rowan in Pretoria. I've got a question regarding the sonar. I've always wondered why the president does the State of the Nation address before the State of the Provinces addresses. It strikes me that his address should be based on what the provinces actually report. I don't know if somebody can answer that for me.
I hear what you're saying. So you're saying a bottom-up approach as opposed to a top-down approach, that the tone... I suppose what happens is that the provinces take their cue from what the president and the national government have said, and they translate those to their own deliverables within their own realities in the various provinces. But I get the point. You feel it should be the other way around.
Good morning to Lasizwe. This is Alan Temani from Parare Village. About the State of the Nation address, I don't see anything different that Cyril Ramaphosa will tell us as the citizen. Is the same old song that is going to be sang tonight. So, actually we're just waiting for the time to boot these people out of the office and get the new political party that can run this country. Thank you very much.
Tulas and your team, good morning. It's Kosnati speaking here. Look, my brother, pertaining the sauna of today, nothing good that is coming to come out of that sauna. Because Cyril Ramaphosa is a liar, a very good liar. So he's going to continue where he stopped, which is lies. Remember, he's no longer coming back as a president. It's his last sauna. So he's going to deliver lie even today. Thank you.
Hey, Tulas, it's good that I will not able to watch the president making his false promises this evening due to load shedding. Stylus from Bombela.
All right, let me go to Linda in Boksburg. Good morning to you, Linda.
Good morning to Lasizwe.
Short and sharp for me, if you don't mind. Thank you.
That's the thing about the State of the Nation.
Yes.
For me, Cyril Ramaphosa or President Ramaphosa has been a massive disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm pained by the fact that when he took over, after years of not listening to the State of the Nation from the previous president, because I knew that there was nothing to listen to besides the bad delivery of his speeches, I was looking forward to come back and listen to the president of the country when he speaks every time when there's a State of the Nation. And after 2 years or 3 years of Ramaphosa's presidency, I stopped. I stopped. I've never listened to the State of the Nation. I have no intention to listen to it until he goes. Because the man is a massive disappointment. I can list a number of things that I'm disappointed about, but for me, the disappointment stems from the fact that here's a person who gave us hope at a time when he came through in 2018. We were all starry-eyed waiting for the new dawn. Thank you, Tulas.
All right, Linda. Thank you. Sobering thoughts there from Linda, running along the same theme of disillusionment that I've been talking about all morning. Mike in Rankua, good morning to you.
Morning, Tula Silver. The economical problems that we are facing are man-made. They've been brought about by the empire terrorists of ANC. Now, the only option that is left for us, South Africa, we must now embark on a rolling mass action, the whole country, so that we can dislodge ANC from power. We need not to wait for a national dialogue or municipal election. We need to remove ANC from power just now. We must not destroy, when we embark on mass rolling action, we must not destroy infrastructure. We must just dislodge ANC from power just now. All of us must go on a mass rolling action. We go to parliament, we go to union building, and the main strike must go to the house where all this rubbish has been concocted. That's the only way. I don't want to talk about anything. ANC is not taking us anywhere. We must just remove it from power just now. We must embark on a mass rolling action, the whole country, until ANC is removed from power.
All right.
And other political parties, variant from ANC, MK Party, and EFF, when you mix all three of them, ANC, EFF, and MK Party, they are axis of evil. All of them are responsible for 1.5 trillion that was looted from the state.
So what do we do then, Mike, once we remove the ANC? Because you're saying the others are not an option.
Exactly. Now, let me give you a solution.
Yes.
Yeah. When you look into the Constitution, we still have an option of provision of a direct voting system. We can directly vote for the state president, provincial premier, executive mayor, and council, direct from the society.
All right, Mike.
And those people must account to the society. And no longer, we don't want black politician has destroyed this country.
Okay,
Black
Mike,
politician.
I've got to go. Mike, thank you for that.
The vampires.
Mike, thank you for that. That's Mike and Rankuwa there, ending off what's been a robust session of the morning brief. I'm glad that we've had the conversation. Keep listening. The talking point is up next here on SAFM after the news at 9 with N. Musa. I'm Tula Sizwe Semelane. You've been briefed.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, President Ramaphosa urged to address ongoing water crisis and IPID senior investigator back at the Matlanga Commission. Good morning. With only a few hours left before the State of the Nation address, some residents in Johannesburg have called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the ongoing water crisis that has left several communities with dry taps. Residents in the city's southern suburbs have taken to the streets to protest over water outages. Communities from Alberton, Robertsham, Ridgeway, Omonde and Winchester Hills are gathering to demand reliable water supply and better communication from Joburg Water and Rand Water. Subaya Patel is a representative for the Johannesburg Southern Suburbs community.
We want answers. We're tired of being fed fake news. We're being told that there's no water in towers, there's no water in the reservoir. There's 2 towers and a reservoir here at Crown Gardens. And we're constantly being fed the information. It's a sort of a cut and paste exercise on a daily basis. What we want is we want open and transparent information. It doesn't help to tell us there's no water in the towers when there's certain parts of the area that's getting water. And they receive water from the Crown Gardens reservoir and towers as well.
Meanwhile, the MK party says it has low expectation for this evening's State of the Nation address. The party's caretaker, Chief Whip Mabatu Mokoena Zondi, says citizens are tired of hearing the same things.
The President must explain what the government of national unity has changed in real terms. Not politically, economically. We want to know it practically. People still don't have water. Electricity is still unstable. Municipalities are still failing. And young people remain locked out of the economy. If this address avoids state failure, as we've seen before, then it confirms a simple truth. This GNU is managing politics and not fixing the country.
IBID senior investigator Nomsa Masuku returns to the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria this morning. The commission is probing allegations of political interference, corruption and criminal infiltration in the criminal justice system. Masuku testified about the murder of Brakpan businessman Emmanuel Mbenze, who was allegedly killed by police officers in April 2022. Mbenze's body was subsequently dumped in the Duduza Dam. Sibahle Mota reports.
Masuku's testimony has corroborated that of the late Maurice van der Merwe, who presented himself as Witness D at the Madlanga Commission. Witness D had testified that police officers allegedly tortured and killed Mbenze. Masuku told the commission that it was evident that Mbenze had sustained injuries around his head due to blunt force trauma. She has also testified that after Mbenze's funeral, an individual named Zande Fritz visited his mother regarding a stolen truck. Masuku adds that Fritz identified himself as working with the Hawks and even wore uniform associated with them. I am Sibahle Mota in Pretoria.
Evidence leader of the TRC cases inquiry in Pretoria, Advocate Ishmael Semenya, has indicated the Commission could use its powers of compulsion to obtain material to complete its work within the given time frame. He was speaking on the first day of public hearings. He says he's disheartened by the lack of response to the inquiry's request for information from state actors. He says not a single statement has been received from any police commissioners dating back to 2003.
We have been slow because of a whole number of complications to have to issue out documents of compulsion. We have also under the regulations the power to exercise in compelling that information to come forward. No less, we have the powers under the Commissions Act, that of subpoena and compelling witnesses to come and appear before this commission. But the